Yeah. You know, I'm not just radio and sports, man.
I did know about the blue moon. I was surprised. I would not have had I not been at a neighbor's house last night, and my neighbor pointed it out to me. I was like, "Hey, look at the moon."
It was
like,
bright
tomorrow
yesterday.
It's the blue moon.
Yeah, last night it was bright. Tonight, blue moon.
Forgive me.
It's like we having
You didn't know about the blue moon?
It's like we're having a side conversation over here.
I didn't know that it was tonight. Is it actually blue?
Yeah,
Like, what is a blue moon?
It's going to give off like a blue hue because it's going to be so big and so bright. So, yeah, go out tonight.
I don't want to put you on the spot, D-Mase, but why is it turn blue?
I didn't go too deep into it.
I didn't want to put you on the spot.
He just looks at it, Nick. He doesn't know the reason.
Nick, I just looked at it. I know some stars and
I'm a man of curiosity.
things like that. Like last night, I was out and saw a shooting star. Then I saw
you saw a shooting star last night?
Yeah, you see those all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah. If you look up in the
why
sky,
have I been programmed to think that shooting stars happen, once every million years?
They happen all the time. You just got to look in the sky. Just look up. Everybody. Yeah. At night, just look up.
Don't look at your
phone. Spend about an hour. Exactly. Don't look at your phone. Cut off the lights around your house, like outside. And if you live in a not, if you don't live in a city.
Yeah.
If you live sort of outside the city where the lights are not as bright, turn your lights out. Just look up in the sky for about an hour. You're bound to see something. For about like I saw a shooting star last night.
How do I know if it's a shooting star or an airplane?
A shooting star just goes. It's just like
super quick?
it's just like that, and you see it.
Yeah.
But last night I saw something. Don't know what it was. I believe it was a satellite, but it could have been something else. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it was a satellite. So
now we're really getting into some.
Yeah, but if you look up in the sky long enough at night, you're bound to see something. And it's just amazing. I love just stargazing. It's my like a hobby of mine. Just it's relaxing as well.
I'm sure it is.
A nice little calm music. Just
see
sitting
a couple
there.
aliens up there.
Yeah, I want to see an alien. I want to see one. Bad.
Do we have an astronomy major that can text our text line and explain why
the moon is blue?
The moon turns blue. What creates?
We just
blue?
had a caller. He said that 2 full moons in 1 month cause a blue moon.
So last night was one.
Like, what about the physics? Like, what creates the light? That's
the hue
that
of a blue.
That is a great question, Willy.
Yeah, the hue of a blue. So.
I knew some people at Vanderbilt, teammates of mine, that took astronomy, thinking that it was going to be awesome. You're going to be looking at the stars.
Food. They got food.
After a couple weeks, they're like, man, there's a lot of math in this class, a lot of physics. And they're like, I'm dropping this class. This is too hard, man. This is too much. I thought we were just going to be out looking at stars.
Nah,
no,
don't work
that's
that
not
way.
how it works.
I've had a lot of friends that mixed up astronomy with astrology.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
And they realized, we're not talking about Pisces and Sagittarius. Like we're talking about what the Big Dipper. Like, no, I'm good. No thanks. I'll pull out of this.
Exactly.
We'll keep our eye in the sky tonight for the blue moon. D-Mase, I expect a full blue moon report tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Also, a very big day yesterday as far as the Tennessee Titans were concerned. Big day for the moon today. Big day for the Titans yesterday. 53-man roster was released. The Titans had 3 quarterbacks. Don't think that was a surprise to any of us. 3 running backs, Derrick Henry, Tajay Spears, and Julius Chestnut. 7 receivers. But as we talked about yesterday, we expect Kyle Phillips to probably go on IR after the 53-man roster was initially released because, just a reminder to everyone, if you're placed on IR before the 53-man roster is released, you're on IR for the entirety of the season. So Kyle Phillips on the 53-man roster.
Haskins is on IR before the 53-man roster.
And Hassan Haskins has been placed on the commissioner's exempt list, which is where I think that it's
he
like
probably
detention, but for Roger Goodell.
To be right now, considering you don't know what's going on with his legal situation. So,
And he does have a hearing today. So we'll have some updates about about Hassan Haskins in his future.
Yes.
3 tight ends, 10 offensive linemen. Nicholas Petit-Frere was not on that initial 53-man list because of that suspension at the beginning of the season. 5 D linemen, 5 linebackers, 4 outside linebackers, 5 corners, 5 safeties, and then your 3 specialists. Willy and D-Mase, initial takeaways, thoughts, and any surprises from the initial 53-man roster submitted yesterday.
I didn't see. I mean, listen, we can go to the bottom of the roster and start looking at guys that will either play on special teams or will not get much playing time or will be game time decisions each and every week. We can sort of look at those guys and kind of figure, but I don't think there was any surprises, at least to me. They kept 7 wide receivers, but Kyle Phillips will go on IR, so that's 6. I wonder what they will do once Kyle Phillips come back. Will they keep 7 or will they put a guy on practice squad once Kyle Phillips comes back?
And then offensive line as well. Dylan Radins was on the initial 53, but I would expect the Titans to put Dylan Radins on IR too.
Exactly.
So that would leave 2 more roster spots once those 2 go on IR.
What I am curious about, because they break them down into like their actual positions, like center, guard, tackle. They kept 3 centers. Now, Corey Levin can play both center and guard, and I'm sure Xavier Newman can do both as well. So it's not necessarily they're going to play center, but they're more so swing possible center guards. I'm surprised they kept 3 of them. But with an offensive line that isn't proven, you got to keep as many as you can, because if one of those guys go down, then you're going to be SOL if you don't have guys to back them up. So, but I am surprised they kept, if you break it down into positions, they kept 3 centers. So we'll see.
I thought a long time ago, that if they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks, is that going to strain the roster? I remember thinking that in the summer, and I don't think it did at all. I think that shows you the depth is questionable here. I didn't see anybody on the list like, wow, it probably really hurt to cut that guy. And even the ones that they cut that we know, I think they will not have any trouble getting them back on the practice squad if they want them. So I don't know that this was that difficult a decision. And I think maybe we make too much of who makes the 53, because in the last few years, with the expanded practice squads and the different rules where it's easier to shuttle guys up and down, it's really a bigger roster. A lot of these guys will be in the mix. You guys mentioned Kinsey. Like, unless somebody signs him, which I'd be surprised if they did, he'll be in the mix. He'll be there for them to call up if they need to. The other thing I'm curious about is, with the state of the roster, do they put in a couple of waiver claims somewhere around the league? You see a tweet come up here and there about a guy that looks like he might bring something to the table as an offensive lineman that started a certain amount of games, or a defensive back who's got some experience under his belt. Are there a couple guys that they take a shot at, knowing that finishing 7-10 last year as opposed to 12-5, they might actually grab one of these 2 guys if they want them?
That's something that Trevor Maddich talked about yesterday on Jared's show. He said that he thinks it's almost certain that the Titans are going to go after another offensive lineman, whether that's a waiver claim before 3 o'clock today, or whether that's just picking up an offensive lineman from someone else's practice squad. He said that he expects the Titans to do that for depth purposes. I assume just for depth purposes, because you're already down to Chris Hubbard as your starting right tackle. No disrespect to Chris Hubbard, but I don't know how much confidence that really gives you in the quality of depth on the offensive line. So I think that's a fair point. And I think that's another thing to keep in mind, too, with the initial 53-man roster, is you sign these guys to the 53-man roster. They make the team. But the Titans also have every right to go pick up whatever other player on any other practice squad. So you sign 53, you want to sign another one? Well, you can cut another one from the 53 and move him down to the practice squad. Or just cut him, release him. So that's another thing to keep in mind as well, is this is the 53-man roster now, but things can change, especially until 3 o'clock today once the waiver wire claims.
Yeah, because I'm sure there will be not necessarily big names on the market, but there will be guys that have played some snaps, a lot of snaps in this league, particularly at the offensive line position that the Titans can then potentially pick up via the draft, meaning via the free agency and cuts. One guy on there is Dan Quisenberry. He was once a Titan. He got cut by Buffalo, I believe. Is this a guy that they look at and say, he knows our system pretty much? Guys are familiar with him. We're familiar with him as a coaching staff. Do we bring a guy like that back? Because I'm sure he would be an upgrade to the bottom half of your depth chart in regards to offensive linemen. So, guy like that, or you sift through other teams, cut down list and try to find a guy that you are familiar with, guy that is either played in the league that you've scouted, or a guy that you scouted in college that you wanted to bring in as a free agent, but another team got him before you could offer him a contract. So that could happen. But I am, Trevor's right. I think, the roster today will not be the roster come the first game of the season, I don't think.
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
You've got the flexibility there, but the Titans' initial 53-man roster is out. Some more of our takeaways from the Titans' initial 53-man roster coming up next. Plus, we have known since Ran Carthon has come to Nashville, since he's been named the GM of the Tennessee Titans, that it's a collaboration between he and Mike Vrabel. But how do we think that dynamic worked when finalizing the initial 53? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
Rebound, try out in front, and Saros covers it up.
All the big stories.
Andrew Burnett reportedly hired as the next head coach of the Predators.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Checkered flag is in the air.
Comparing goalies to running backs.
46-27 Vanderbilt.
Does this group of players need more?
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline Fenton here for our friends over at Superbook Sports. Football season is right around the corner, and now is the time to place your preseason bets with Superbook in Tennessee. Superbook is the most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use the promo code Caroline, my name, Caroline, to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, Superbook will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code Caroline. Will Tennessee win the division this year? Who is your pick for MVP? And which team will win it all in February? Don't sit on the sidelines. Win money this season with Superbook Sports. Simply download the Superbook Tennessee app or visit superbook.com to place your wager today. Football, a $250 first bet bonus, and the Caroline promo code will make you do your own touchdown dance this season with Superbook Sports. So visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 $1,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
So how do you get the confidence level that what you've done through practice translates in the game, or is that just what you see against New Orleans is what you get?
I'm not really sure. I know that we've had some really good examples of us making plays against Minnesota, us making plays in the game against Minnesota, us having, running a 4-minute operation, closing the game out. We're going to need to do that, hopefully, in 17 games. I don't think it'll be 17, but I'd like it to be. But we've also had examples of us, playing man coverage, getting off the field, affecting the quarterback. We were able to throw the ball. One thing I thought was really cool coming out of the game was that we went in with some specifics on special teams and on defense and on offense. And, we averaged 10.5 yards an attempt in the game on offense. So we were able to hit some plays down the field. We got a really cool DPI penalty that was going to go unnoticed from Chris Moore, but came back. Guy wasn't playing the ball. Those are things we coach. So I guess that translated. We talked about the net on the punt team. We worked that. We worked drills on that. And then to go and be able to show the guys after the game that here's the net. We're not following guys down maybe in the same lane like we were in Minnesota. Or after the Vice, incident with the returner, with Kyle, which is unacceptable. Early on, all our vices on the punt return were good. So those are things that I think that we can point to when we go in and say, hey, here's a focus. This is what we're concentrating on. Let's see if we can't get it done. And then when you do it, then we showed the team on, I guess, whatever it was yesterday.
That was Mike Vrabel at the podium, what he has seen from practice translating on to the field for the 3 preseason games. And I have to think a portion of that was in mind when cutting down to the initial 53-man roster. Hey, Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase is brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. So just one more of my final takeaways from looking at the initial 53-man roster. Now, remember, this is not going to be the roster from now until January, forever and ever, amen. There's going to be a whole lot of changes that happen to this roster, whether it be the Titans picking up waiver wire claims, whether it be the Titans picking up players from other practice squads. When you do that, you have to cut players on your 53-man roster. Game day rosters are going to change. So things are going to be different. Just because this is what the roster looks like today doesn't mean this is what the roster is going to look like tomorrow or week 1 against the New Orleans Saints. But just the initial 53-man roster, one of my takeaways was there's a whole lot of rookies on this roster. 5 UDFAs in all 6 of their draft picks. 11 rookies on the initial 53. And I think there's 2 ways that you can look at that. One is good for the rookies for beating out maybe some more experienced or veteran players and getting on the 53. The second way of looking at that is, your depth at the bottom of the roster is a little bit of a concern. When you've got 5 UDFAs that are going to be, more of your depth pieces. Again, that's going to change. Very much so that is going to change. But initially, that was one thing that really stood out to me is the just lack of experience with their 11 rookies on this 53.
I think part of it is the salary cap. I think of where they are cap-wise. with a lot of money tied into a relatively low amount of players like Derrick Henry, Kevin Byard. And so you need a certain amount of guys who make the league minimum to get in there. There's not as much room for those mid-level free agents. And I think it also falls into line with one of the things that we identified as a theme all summer long is that you've got a team that's got one eye on what happens after Ryan Tannehill, Kevin Byard, and Derrick Henry are too old to keep us afloat, right? What happens after those guys are done playing? And how do we compete this year? Mm-hmm. So, they spent money on DeAndre Hopkins. They kept the veterans together to run it back one more time. So when to do that, you have, I think, a little top-heavy roster, and then on the bottom, you got to have rookies. You got to have undrafted free agents make the team. So that's what I see. It's that right in between. We're not blowing it up and rebuilding, and we're not all in with all veterans because this is where they are right now. They're sort of in between, and we'll see how that looks once they start playing.
Well, they have no choice. This isn't, you got 11 guys that are, basically first-year players. Mm-hmm. And it's just indicative of your roster, period. It's an indictment on your roster that, your roster's not that good enough. Not taken away from the 11 guys and what they did in preseason to show that they should make this team, but it is indicative of how your roster isn't as good as it has been in previous years. You had UDFs, that show out like Caleb Murphy. Mm-hmm. Listen, he was showed out on anybody's team.
He should have made the roster.
Yeah,
I'm glad that he has made
anybody's
the roster.
Team.
He just gets to the quarterback.
Yeah, so, but then you have other guys that, may have played well, but if they're on other teams, depending on how that team was structured, they probably wouldn't have made the 53. Not saying they wouldn't have made their practice squad, but not the 53. This is just an indictment on what has been happening the last 3 or 4 years with this roster. And it's gotten to a point where, good for the 11 guys that were drafted and first-year players or, undrafted guys that they brought in. Good for those guys again. They worked hard. Good. But again, it's just indicative of what the roster is. They have 3 or 4 guys, possibly, maybe, and I'm maybe stretching with 4, that are players in this league, proven players. They have just that many on defense. So you're talking about really 8 people that have done something in this league, considerable amount of something in this league that you consider them top-tier players. After that, it's just you're trying to piece together your roster. So, again, good for them that they made it.
Yeah.
I know how hard it is, and I know the anxiety that goes along with, working so hard and then, trying to figure out if I did enough to make the team. But I don't know if we need to go back and see, within the last 5 or 6 years, how many first-year guys, whether draft picks or UDFs, that have made this roster within the last 5 years, like each year. Because I think this year's has been the highest. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this year has been the highest amount of guys, first-year guys, let's just say that, first-year guys that have made the team. And I think it's just indicative of the roster. And I think we've always discussed that the roster is just not where it needs to be right now.
I'm curious how it compares to other teams. And one thing comes to mind when you say that, D-Mase, because I've never done the study. That would take some time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
To compare Titans year in and year out, and also what do other teams do. But one factor is, let's take Jacksonville. Jacksonville still has Trevor Lawrence on the first contract. That makes it easier to have more money to get those mid-level free agents, those guys who might have a couple of more years on it. Whereas the Titans, like you said, they don't. Rand Carthon comes in, he doesn't have much of a choice right now when you've got the situation they have. Now, I'm curious in the future years as Carthon starts being able to maybe have a little more flexibility to build the way he wants to, and it's more the decisions he's made and not the decisions he's making off of the previous guys, where he goes from there. And what happens when, in theory, you've got Will Levis or Malik Willis quarterbacking, who, it's a fraction of the cost of what they're paying Tannehill. How do you use that extra money to try to strengthen the roster up and down? Because that's what they're going to need. Those guys are going to need a really good supporting cast around them to be successful.
And I do wonder, though, because that's a fair point, if you need some sort of value when you're looking at the bottom of the roster, when you're looking at depth guys. I think that this team has performed its best when you get the most out of some of your more underpaid players. I don't mean underpaid, lower end of the salary kind of guys. But when I look at the decisions and I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but Colton Dowell made the initial 53-man roster. Well, I don't think that, let's say, Reggie Roberson would make significantly more money than Colton Dowell would. So why the decision to sign Colton Dowell to the initial 53, maybe over a Reggie Roberson or an Otis Reese over a Ben Neiman?
In that particular one, it seemed like to me that Roberson played a little bit better in camp than McDowell, but then he was a draft pick. Colton was a draft pick. So it's like, okay, we got a draft pick. We got this guy who's both of them. Yeah, he may be a little bit ahead of him, but this was our draft pick. So we're leaning toward keeping our draft pick as opposed to another guy. And they both played, because I don't think, was Roberson a draft pick of theirs? I'm not sure he was a draft pick. He wasn't a draft pick this year. I know that. It may have been in previous years, but I know he wasn't a draft pick this year. So that's because you're right.
I'm pretty sure it's a UDFA.
Yeah, because you're right. The money isn't, it's not like one guy's making $3 million and the other guy's making $1 million.
Yeah.
They're both making right around the same. But I think, again, it means more when you can hold on to your draft pick if the play is close. If both guys are close to one another as far as what we've seen and evaluated them, I tend to probably keep my draft pick than I do the other guy.
I agree. And I think there's a little bit of ego with the scouts and the GM. Like, they want to be smart with the guys they picked.
Yeah.
I think to some degree. So I think there's a benefit of the doubt for the draft pick over the undrafted free agent.
But
not that there aren't undrafted free agents represented on the roster, as you pointed out. There's plenty of them.
Absolutely. Tier Tart was an undrafted free agent. And now, look at him. Look what Tier Tart does for this team. But I kind of want to continue the conversation coming up next. And that point that you just made, Willie, about maybe the ego that's involved. Is that the right way to run the team? And who had the final say when constructing the initial 53? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willie, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
New home. New energy. Same Blue Raiders.
99 yards! Touchdown, Middle Tennessee!
Catch every game for MTSU on 93.3 Classic Hits. Coach Rick Stockstill is poised to lead his team to yet another bowl appearance.
We're really excited about this opportunity.
Your home for the Blue Raiders is 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
Don't miss a minute of football action while getting up close and personal to the future stars of the PGA Tour. Join Penn Entertainment on site at the Simmons Bank Open, promoting Penn Play and their sports online betting platform. Stop by their tent in the Arctic Tailgate Village during the tournament to learn more and have a chance to win some prizes and giveaways. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee. For problem gambling support, call Tennessee Redline, 1-800-899-9789.
Hey, this is the Fat Jack, and it's finally the start of football season and a great time for you to ask yourself, how did last year go? If you were just guessing and you lost money betting on the games, now is the time to go to FatJackSports.com. Before you dig yourself a hole, you can start the season heading into profit. For $50 a week, you can make money betting the games. Go to FatJackSports.com and get consistent winners emailed to you or sent via text that will get you into profit. FatJackSports.com today.
Hey, are you seeking relief? Maybe you just want to enhance your day or night. Did you know there are legal THC products available right here in Tennessee? Yeah, really. You can have legal THC products shipped directly to the comfort of your home. Yes, comfort in cannabis is only a website away. Visit greentreescompany.com. That's Green Trees with a Z, and change your life today.
Hey guys, it's Mike at Newton Chevrolet GMC in Shelbyville. It's finally starting to warm up out there, right? You know what that means. Warmer temperatures mean the need for AC units to be ready to go. Is your car's AC unit not keeping up with the summer sun? Or are you relying on the open windows to keep you cooled off? Maybe it's time for an upgrade. And we've got you covered like sunscreen and a lifeguard's nose. If you're looking for a reliable pre-owned car, we've got over 75 of them starting under $17,000. And most of our used vehicles are covered with Newton certified pre-owned warranty so that you'll even have more peace of mind. If you want more of an upgrade, our new car selection of Chevys and GMCs is waiting for you. From trucks to reliable SUVs and everything in between. If you want a new Chevy Silverado, the savings start at $5,000 off. So shop our selection today. Don't keep sweating your way through summer. Get a great AC upgrade from Newton Chevrolet GMC in Shelbyville. Visit NewtonChevroletGMC.com today. That's NewtonChevroletGMC.com. Every car comes with an AC unit, but the windows do roll down automatically if you prefer that warm summer breeze in your hair.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike three.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey, Nashville, this is Eli Gold, voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Final say on the roster?
I don't think that matters because I think the word and what we truly believe here is collaborating. I think all that comes down to, in my opinion, is a matter of ego. Mike and I, we're here to work together, and we're going to bring the people in here that we see fit, and we're not going to see it the same way all the time, but he and I will have the mutual respect to be able to work through that, and we'll get the right people in here.
So that was Rand Carthon in his introductory press conference back in January when he was first named the GM of the Tennessee Titans. That's when we heard the word collaboration maybe, over under 174 times?
Yeah, probably over.
Over? Yeah, right. That between...
Synergy.
Yes, synergy, fusion, lockstep, whatever corporate buzzword you want to use. We heard a lot of it, that between Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel and Amy Adams Strunk, that they were going to collaborate in the decisions, the big decisions surrounding this football team. Roster construction being one of those things. And that's something that we talked about a ton around draft time, was really whose pick is it? At the end of the day, who has final say when drafting? And I think it's still a relevant conversation in the 53-man roster construction of who had final say in the initial 53-man roster.
It's something that we've been debating the whole time.
For almost a year now.
Yeah, ever since they fired John Robinson, and we were saying, okay, the next guy, what does this do to Vrabel's decision-making? If we presume that the final say went to John Robinson before, because it was more of the traditional model, the collaboration, you can say that all you want, and they're going to continue to say that, but you do wonder, there have to be some tie-breaking procedures.
Right.
There are going to be some times where it's, okay, we can't really decide. You think one way, I think the other. What do we do? So who is the guy that makes the final? Somebody has to be the guy, right?
Somebody had. I mean, I understand they're not going to let
as much as you want to be
or...
collaborative and everything. You hope the other guy says, you know, right? Last time we went with yours. Today we're going to go with mine.
Let's rock, paper, scissors.
It's just my turn.
Right.
Yeah. Or rock, paper, flip a coin. I don't know. It is interesting. I don't know how different it is. I sense that Vrabel's got a little bit more in there. I don't know if I would go as far as to say if Vrabel wants his guy, he's going to get his guy. But Vrabel had a hand in help in getting Rand Carthon hired. I think that means something. Whereas the other way, it wasn't always like that.
I think for starters, and Rand sort of alluded to this in his introductory press conference of me coming in and me I'm not coming in here to, move anybody out or wreck shop or revamp anything. I'm coming in and basically I'm just observing. I'm evaluating. I got to do my own evaluation. I think this first year, he probably, because he's the new guy coming in, he probably sort of, okay, I'm going to lean more toward, Vrabel's thinking, because he's been here. He knows this team. He knows the type of roster he wants to assemble. So I'm going to lean on him in regards to players. Now, I'm going to have some say, but he knows this roster better than I do. Even though I've evaluated this roster, he knows them individually better than I do. So this first year, I'm going to lean on Vrabes to sort of get, the roster that he wants. Then moving forward, it has to be more of a collaborative thing. It has to be more of a, okay, you evaluate this guy this way, I evaluate him this way. Now let's bring all the coaches in and all the scouts in and sort of let that be kind of like the tiebreaker in a sense. I think next year's roster, he will have more of a say. I'm not saying he didn't have it this year, but I think when you come in as a first-year guy, just like a first-year player, when you come in, even if you're a veteran, especially when you're a veteran player and you've done a lot in this league, you come in and you don't want to all of a sudden just come in and say, no, I want it this way, I want it this way.
Right,
no
you
music.
defer.
Exactly.
You defer to the older guys.
I defer to the older guys that have been here. And once I figure everything, once I figure the landscape out, once I start building, relationships with people in the locker room, now I can allow my voice to be heard the next following season or going into the next following season or in players, situation, middle of the season, somewhere around there. So I'm pretty sure that's sort of what Rand was thinking in regards to this roster and leaning more on the guys that have been here rather than I got my evaluation, but I'm going to defer to the head coach and the guys that have been here in regards to, if it comes down to that, in regards to who we keep.
I think you're dead on. I think that is a smart approach by Rand Carthon, by the way. It's not a power trip. It's, hey, I'm young. I know what I'm doing, but let me use what I've got around me. Let me build the trust. And like you said, I always thought of it like as a pickup game, right? If you're in a pickup basketball game and you're the new guy and you're with some good players, you don't go and jack 3 3-pointers the first 3 times down the court, right? You show the guys you can play. Like you show up at the playground, you want people to want to play with you, right? Yeah. If you lose the game, you want the next team to pick you up. So you don't want to go in there like, look at this guy. This guy's just going to jack up 3-pointers. He's a ball hog. We don't want him. So you set screens for people. You're going to try to make some hustle play. You're going to try to build and have people go, yeah, I like that guy. All right, let's pass him the ball. Now let's get. I think that same dynamic is at work here. I think that's dead on.
I think that Mike Vrabel has the final say. And maybe that changes in the future. I don't know. But for right now, I think that Mike Vrabel has the final say. And this is why I think that matters, is because we were talking about, what's the process behind deciding to sign, your 7th round pick in Colton Dowell versus a Reggie Roberson. We looked it up at the break. They each make the same amount of money this year. They each make $750,000 this year. So what's the science behind that? What's the motivation? How do you pick one guy over another when you're talking about the bottom of the roster? Like, we know why DeAndre Hopkins is making the team. But that's why I think that matters. Yeah. You mentioned, it's the draft pick involved in it. It's the draft investment into Colton Dowell versus Reggie Roberson being a UDFA. But that doesn't sound like very much like a Vrabel thing to do. Like, that doesn't sound very Vrabel-esque to put your ego ahead of maybe what's best for the team. And maybe they see something in Colton Dowell that I just haven't seen this preseason. Well, I've seen more from Reggie Roberson than I have Colton Dowell. So it doesn't sound very Vrabel-esque. A guy who says, we're going to do whatever it takes to help the team, but to do what's best for the team. And then turn around and give the guy the nod because of the draft investment.
But I think that's a good point, too, about what Derek's bringing to the table of Rand Carthon being the young guy that wants to be collaborative, defers to the establishment, the veteran coach. But if Mike Vrabel's smart, he's going to say, okay, what have we not done well in the past? Where do I feel like I know, and where should I be leaning on Rand Carthon and the scouting department. Like those guys that made that decision to draft him, Mike Vrabel probably didn't do the extensive homework on Colton Dowell that Rand Carthon and the scouts did, right? So they have more of a knowledge base, and if it's close, I think that's where I don't think it's just ego. It's also, look, we did our homework on this guy. He's coming along, and hopefully Mike Vrabel sees this. I'm also curious. They might be right on the same page for 7 of every 10 players.
They could be.
It's just what happens. You're asking the question. It's a good one. What happens on the 2 or 3 that we disagree on? How do we break those ties, and who defers to who? And I think it's probably likely that for whatever reason, Rand Carthon's like, all right, coach, I see you. We're going to go with you right now. And then over time, as they learn more about each other, maybe that process changes a little bit.
Well, it's about earning. It's the trust factor. And trust meaning both ways. I'm the new GM. I'm going to trust you because you know this roster better than me, so I'm going to trust you. If it comes down to those 1 or 2 players that we disagree on, okay, I'm going to trust you because this is how you want your roster as the head coach built. So I'm going to trust that you're doing it, that this guy is going to be beneficial for us to keep. Now, if it comes down to, okay, I've trusted you a few times on these last 10 guys, let's just say, and say it's not working, then okay, now I believe I need to take more of a role in not just the top of the roster or the middle of the roster, but the bottom of the roster, because it seems like, I trusted that would happen with you, but it hasn't worked for whatever reason. So now I can get my thoughts in, or interject my thoughts into who we're going to keep and who we're not going to keep. But I mean, sports is all about ego. If you don't think ego is in sports and is rampant, something's wrong with you.
I know.
It comes in
but
a
doesn't
little.
it sound very not Vrabel?
Vrabel has the biggest ego on that team.
Totally.
He has the big, but
I have to believe that when Vrabel says we're going to do what's best for this football team, I have to believe him.
Oh
when
yeah,
he says that.
I believe him when he says that. He's trying to do what's best for the team, and I think everybody that echoes that sentiment, they believe it in their heart. Whatever we're doing for the best of the team. I may not necessarily, if I'm a head coach and the GM says, no, I want to keep this guy because I think this is best for the team. And you may say, okay, but you may not necessarily like the player in a sense, but you're doing what's best for the team because everybody else seems to be on board with keeping this one guy or 2 guys. And I'm the only guy that's like, I don't know. But, I mean, if y'all think it's best for the team, he's not a bad player, but if y'all think it's best for the team, then okay, let's do what's best for the team.
Right.
So I think that's more or less how it operates. Again, I think, I think Vrabel's ego is just as big as anybody else's.
Maybe
on
even
that
bigger.
But and when I say that, it's not a bad thing. You got to have an ego in this business. When you're in a business like this, whether it's sports or entertainment, there has to be an ego there.
Right.
You have to believe you are the best at what you're doing.
And we know Vrabel is petty.
Yeah.
And that comes from a place of ego. And you're right, it's not a bad thing unless it starts to hurt
Exactly,
the football
unless
team.
it starts to hurt everybody.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Got a bunch of texts on this, so we're right to your thoughts on the Titans' initial 53-man roster. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, say tune in to 1025 and 1063 The Game this Saturday for Vanderbilt football. The Commodores will kick off at 6 p.m. at home against Alabama A&M with pregame beginning at 4:30 p.m. You can hear all the coverage on 1025 The Game app and thegamenashville.com. 1025, 1063 The Game.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, live and local from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. When you want the national
Hey. I got this. I'll take it from here.
Okay, go ahead. Dying to hear this.
We have the best national voices that you'll find anywhere.
Who was more deserving of being thrown from their game?
I'm odd, so I get the odd picks.
They have a new coaching staff.
It's not a bad scenario for them.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
And 94.9 The Fan.
Your home reflects you, your style, your choices. That's why purchasing a home is not just financially significant, it's personal too. At F&M Mortgage, we understand clients need a loan that's just as personal, one that fits you with service from a local lender who lives right here. Yes, we offer competitive rates and low closing costs, but we also know home financing should be more than just numbers. Come see us at one of our branches or online at myfmbank.com. F&M Bank, banking made easy on purpose. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
The Parker Store at 1909 Nolensville Road in Nashville is the Parker Factory Authorized Store for your Parker hydraulic, pneumatic, water, and chemical hose needs. They stock metric tubing and hose connections to 42 millimeters in size, and they'll fabricate while you wait up to 6,000 PSI hydraulic hoses in a 2-inch size. Call the Parker Store at 615-248-8245 for all the Parker requirements you have. The Parker Store, 1909 Nolensville Road.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Sometimes it's good to be loud.
This is the NFL.
Especially when you're Jared Stillman.
That's where we are.
He's not afraid to say what's on his mind each and every day.
That was embarrassing. I don't care if you're a rookie. That was embarrassing.
Stillman and Company. Weekdays at 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Jonathan Hutton, Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow will join us in just over 10 minutes. Hey, sign up for Silly Underdog Picks for your chance to win weekly prizes. Make your picks today at thegamenashville.com or the 102.5 The Game app as week 1 of college football kicks off this weekend. Silly Underdog Picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket and Superbook Sports. Silly Underdog Picks makes its return tomorrow at noon. Pumped for it. I'm ready for it. Let's get some of your thoughts on the Titans' initial 53-man roster. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com.
Should we quickly deliver the news of the waiver claim?
Yes, waiver claims have been released. This is by Tom Pelissero.
So the Titans have claimed a guy that I have not heard of. So I'm looking up his bio right now. Kindle Vildor, cornerback out of Georgia Southern. He was claimed off the Bears roster. He was a Bears draft pick in 2020. He has played.
Fifth-round pick.
He has played 44 games in the league. He has started 21. So in the old you never have enough corners, they claimed a corner.
There you go.
Sounds like a Disney villain. Kindle Vildor.
He does sound like a character out of maybe
what was Vildemar?
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it was Lord of the Rings.
Maybe Harry Potter.
One
was
of the
he
two.
in the Slytherin house?
Sounds like a Slytherin.
Could have been a Slytherin.
He had his career high in interceptions last year.
All right.
He did.
So he played
one.
One. Hey, that's a start.
Okay.
That's a start.
That's all you need.
That's
he
all you
played
need.
11 games last year, 17 in 2021, and 16 in 2020.
Yep.
Seems like a reliable guy.
21 starts over the last 2 years.
Yeah, so he had
at least a
some
part-time
starts,
starter,
yeah.
albeit on a not great defense.
Well,
not the 85 Bears defense. This was the 2022
really
Bears
close.
defense. 85, not quite the same.
No.
What we don't know yet is, when the Titans claim a guy, that means someone
Somebody's
else
gotta go.
has to go. So we don't know who that is quite yet, who is going to be bumped in place of Kindle Vildor, but that is the one waiver claim that the Titans have made. Let's get some of your thoughts on this. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Frankie is on the line with a thought on the ego with the Tennessee Titans. What's up, Frankie?
Hey, I just want to kind of break into that conversation. I don't think, maybe in an NFL locker room, which I haven't spent a lot of time in, but, in entertainment and in that whole world, I think ego's a negative. I think confidence is an absolute must, but I think you can be 100% confident but not have an arrogant or an egotistical personality. So and I agree with you that Vrabel's, his ego has seen some of those podcasts and some of that stuff, and there's a lot of ego there, and I agree with that. But to me, ego is tied with insecurity and just a turnoff, and you can be 100% confident, believe you're the guy, believe you're the person, but as far as ego, I'm just not that. I'm not into that, and I think you can be super successful without it in really any genre. But, of course, D-Mase, you can speak towards the NFL locker room better than I could.
Thanks for your call, Frankie.
Thank you, Frankie. Appreciate it. And he's right. There is this fine line between it's sort of, and I wouldn't even say ego. I think it's arrogance and confidence. I think in this world, if you, whatever thing that you're tasked at doing, and if you feel that you are one of the best at it, I think the ego comes not necessarily, it comes from the hard work that you put in. Like, I know I put in a lot of hard work, and I've been successful. I have an ego, but I don't allow my ego to sort of infiltrate the team. I don't allow it to be a bad thing in a sense. And it's not on display all the time. I don't use it to hold over people. I don't use the ego or the arrogance sort of to show that I'm better than you in every situation that comes up. I'm not trying to do that. But my ego and my confidence allows me to do my job at a high level, but also having the sensitivity to know there are other people in this room, with good ideas. I'm going to listen. And sometimes, more times than not, I'm going to agree and we're going to collaborate and do it. But it's not going to take away from the ego that I have. It's just there because I'm confident in what I'm doing. In this situation, as a player, my ego was through the roof when I was on the field. It had to be. As a receiver?
Yeah. You have to have a big ego.
It had to be, but I had confidence too.
Yeah.
But it wasn't an arrogance. Like, I knew that if I didn't do my job the way I was supposed to do it, that the guy across from me could shut me down at any moment. So I kept that ego or in check in a sense, in regards to that. But it was there. You had to have it because you're in a room full of egos. Man or woman, when you get to that level, whether it be a CEO, whatever, when you get to that level and everybody in that room is on par, there's a bunch of egos in that room, but you know how to check your ego. It's like, okay, I check my ego. What's the old saying? Check your ego at the door.
Right.
It doesn't mean I'm saying you shouldn't have it, but when you're in a room, a team environment, check it at the door. Let it come out when it's supposed to. When we're on a playing field, let it come out against that other team, not amongst the guys that we're trying to work hard to achieve one goal. Let it come out against that team that we're playing.
And I think as far as Vrabel is concerned, I don't think that you can listen to a single Vrabel press conference without thinking that Mike Vrabel has a certain level of ego and arrogance about him. Mm-hmm. I do think that part of that makes him a good coach.
Exactly.
And I do think that part of that is necessary in a cutthroat world like the National Football League. But the point is to make sure that arrogance doesn't put you in a position that hurts the team. Mm-hmm. Like last season, when we were wondering, how in the world does Todd Downing still have a job? Mm-hmm. Was part of that Mike Vrabel's arrogance, not wanting to admit that the guy that he brought in to coordinate this offense was not doing a very good job? Or was part of it something completely different? I don't know. But that's just one example of Mike Vrabel, and I think that you can find several examples across coaches and players across the National Football League. Mike Vrabel absolutely has a level of arrogance to him. But is that a positive thing for this team, or will it get to a point where it's a negative thing for this team?
Well, it's only a negative if you don't allow other people.
If you let your arrogance cloud your judgment.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't allow other people to sort of check that arrogance or that ego, then it becomes a problem. But if you're quick to listen and understand, then your ego should never come in a way of what's good for everybody else. The ego only comes into effect when I'm not willing to open up my ears and listen to what, we have. This show is a prime example. If neither one of us were willing or able to put our ego or whatever aside and listen to one another, we would never get anything said on this show. It'd just be one after this. We'd just interrupt each other one by one. Now it happens sometimes, and that's cool. It just happens in the conversation. But I think most of the time, at least with this show, it's okay. I may not agree with that person, but I'm gonna let that person finish their thought, and okay, then I'm gonna give my thought on it. My ego says jump in there right now. If I'm not willing to listen, my ego says jump in there right now, cut him or her off right now, and set it straight. Well, no, my ego is telling me allow them to get out what they're going to get out, and I just may agree with them if I let them finish their thought out. Some people allow their egos to just jump in there and cut them off, and it ends up being not the right thing for a team environment.
It's a fine line to walk between your own ego and respect for everyone else that you work with.
But I think, by and large, we would say his players enjoy playing for him.
Yeah.
So whatever ego he has, and I think that could be a little different category than stubbornness, right? Yeah. If he's just stubborn and loyal to his coaches, right? That could be a strength, but also a weakness. You're like, doggone it, I refuse to believe I didn't hire the right guy here. This is my guy. I'm sticking by my guy as long as I can. I think he's got a little bit of that in him.
Yeah.
But I think, and on the other side, I think whatever ego he's got, his players are feeding off. I think he creates an energy and environment where people are in the trenches with him.
And that's the positive side of things. That I think Mike Vrabel can use bulletin board material better than any other coach in the National Football League. College football is finally back, and so is our college football game of the week. So tune into 102.5 and 106.3 The Game this Saturday at 11 a.m. for Tennessee versus Virginia, presented by Twin Peaks. Take your tailgate to Twin Peaks for scenic views of all the hottest non-conference games across the country. Jonathan Hutton, Hot Mike with Hutton Withrow, will join us coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey home buyers, TJ Anderson here. Are you looking for a luxury home on over an acre, 7 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms, and close to 7,000 square feet? 6551 Brownlee Drive in Nashville's Westmead neighborhood offers that and a 4th-car garage, all by an award-winning builder. Text the number 1 to 615-420-2377 for pricing and info. Want your home on the radio? Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why we are referred by clients so often. TJ Anderson Homes at Benchmark Realty, office number 615-432-2919.
312 Pizza Company is a proud sponsor of Nashville Sounds Baseball on 102.5 The Game.
Play ball! 94.9 The Fan is your home for Hit City.
Tonight, your Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game road series at Durham.
He gloves, grabs, guns, gets him, and the Sounds win again.
Pre-game at 5:20.
Nashville Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan and the Fan app.
Now, your Game Center update.
This is Nick Frazier, and this Game Center Update is brought to you by BetUS Sportbook and Casino, celebrating 30 years by offering the industry's biggest 125% sign-up bonus. Get started at BetUS.com. Yesterday on the Chase McCabe Show, Zach Lyons with Football and Other F-Words podcast joined the show. Here's what he had to say about the defensive line position on roster cut day.
Naquan Jones in. I've had some people have Naquan Jones out. Where are you on that?
Out. I don't think he's done enough in the times that he has seen in-game, real-life action to necessitate keeping around. But I don't think he's playing. I think that it's Michael Dwumfor Kyle Pecco and Jaden Peavy, and I think that you could even see all three make it. You have to remember last year, depending on how you look at Danico Autry, they kept 7 defensive linemen last year.
Tune in to 94.9 The Fan as the Nashville Sounds take the diamond again tonight versus the Durham Bulls, the AAA affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit theGameNashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 1025 and 1063.
And a score!
You can run different offenses.
The doors on the board.
Off the field, on the field.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download their app today and use promo code THEGAME. A little bit of news, Titans roster news, that wide receiver Trayshawn Harrison, tight end Kevin Rader, corner Eric Guerrer, defensive back Armani Marsh, and outside linebacker Thomas Rush, and tight end Thomas Odukoya have been signed to the Titans practice squad. This in from Justin Mello, who today and yesterday were his days. I mean, he is just Titans 53-man roster aficionado. So shouts out to Justin.
He's got
Mello.
info and he's got pictures with the stuff. He's
on his thing. He has his ear
on his game
to the lockers.
Awfully
he has
impressive.
his ear to the lockers, I can tell you that.
Awfully impressive. Eric Guerrer has also been signed to the practice squad, and the Titans have claimed Kendall Vildor, a corner from Chicago, off of waiver wires.
From Hogwarts.
From
Hogwarts University.
The Disney villain.
Kendall Vildor.
Joining us now is Jonathan Hutton, Hot Mike with Hutton Withrow. Hutton, it is Hutton o'clock, our favorite time of the week. Your initial thoughts and takeaways from the Titans 53-man roster.
I'm good to be with you guys. Look, I think the Titans are better on offense. I don't know how much better. And just comparing the rosters from last year to this year, from coaching to the offensive line, and I'm just saying offensive line, guys, because it can't get much worse. I say that now. Ask me that in 8 weeks. A wide receiver, adding DeAndre Hopkins to pair with Treylon Burks, who by all accounts looks good at practice and back at practice and is on track for New Orleans. Running back and backup running back, it's hard to find a spot where they're not better. And I think that's a good sign. What does that mean overall? Time will tell. Defense, I think the depth is very good. Front seven has a chance to be elite. And what we saw through the first 8 or 9 weeks last year, this defense was among the tops in the entire league, even when they sustained some injuries. And then the dam and the levee broke. So there's reason for optimism. They're not winning the Super Bowl, but they are a competitive roster as it stands right now, given the fact that while we have a ton of questions, right now we don't have a ton of injuries. And the way it sits with Derrick Henry and knowing that at least they have the ability to throw the football, I'm more optimistic than what I was a month ago, given the circumstances of Hopkins being in the mix and the fact that they get through camp relatively healthy overall. I'm hesitant to say that the offensive line is, they're going to be fine. They're far from it. They've got to prove a lot there, but can they be adequate? If they can be adequate, this defense can carry a lot of what this team needs every week.
Yeah, the offensive line is absolutely position of concern for me. But
No doubt.
along those lines of positions of concern, what moves do you think the Titans have yet to make? Maybe waiver wire claims or picking up other pieces from other practice squads around the league just to add some depth pieces to this roster.
You mentioned some of the names right there, the guys that they felt would clear waivers. Honestly, I don't think teams claim enough players and swap in and out. They invest in the players that have been through camp, and there's a lot of time spent in the gamesmanship of having someone that you can have as a free agent on the waiver wire for 24 hours that you can get back on your practice squad. And then if someone attempts to sign them, you can add them to your main roster for a guaranteed 3 weeks. This will be the musical chairs. You mentioned a lot of names that I think will be elevated on game day and then sent back to the practice squad. So, Raiders a good example of how they can help the offensive line without carrying him on the 53-man roster. So they will use that to their advantage. They will use the emergency quarterback to their advantage. And they can go light at tight end because they'll carry a couple on the practice squad that will be activated on game day. I also, just a quick observation, they are younger across the board on offense and defense. So I'd give them but this is something they had to do, clinging to certain players or going with the guy who's been with the system. 4 undrafted free agents made this roster. I do think there is some ways to say that's commendable, given the fact that sticking with who they were sticking with over the last couple of years wasn't necessarily the best decision in terms of depth. At least they have the athleticism and some developmental players like Otis Reese that they can bring along that Vrabel feels like is worth making that investment in.
We'll talk with Jonathan Hutton. You can catch him. He's the host of Hot Mike with Hutton Withrow. I was about to say Outkick again. I'm sorry about that, Hut.
Mace, you can say whatever you want. You were.
I got to get that out of my mind. Outkick.
You're allowed to call me John. Remember that.
Exactly. You just mentioned some of the younger guys, and we talked about it earlier in the show that this roster has gotten young very quickly, and most notably, they've kept 11 guys that were either the 6 that they drafted or UDFAs that they decided to keep. So you're talking 11 first-year players. Does that say much about what does that say about your roster to you?
Well, first it says the investments made in some of their vets didn't pan out. Let's say that. There are holes across this roster that desperately need a reset. They need to be refreshed in a way. Look, depth was not great a year ago. Depth is not great now, top to bottom. But they have rotated and reset the depth with some players that have the ability to improve instead of reaching and keeping players that have plateaued. And those guys can come back, by the way. Honestly, there are several players on the roster that will likely move back and forth through the waiver wire as the season begins. The 4 undrafteds are guys to mention there. But I don't mind the fact that Vrabel identified a handful of these players that he wanted to keep, and maybe they use this as a 24-hour, 48-hour deal where they move them to the practice squad after teams set theirs. That could also be a part of this game. I think the Titans stuck with their foundation identity, and that is their run game. And on defense, there is no doubt the heart of this entire team is up front in that 7. And I think that front 7 now, where they are depth-wise and where they are with talent, that sets the entire tone for what they want to be and how they want to be consistent with that message week in and week out on facing their opponent. They will follow that group. That group has to dominate, and I believe they can. That's the one thing I'm really high on, and I think everyone is. The Titans' front 7 can be elite. They already stopped the run, and now it's time to get after the quarterback. They don't have Bud Dupree, but the Titans didn't have Bud Dupree whenever Bud Dupree was in the Titans uniform. they can be better even without the big name guy on their roster.
Yeah, you're right about that. I think that front seven will end up being the strength of their team, even though I'm still worried about some of the linebacker play outside of Aziz. I'm worried about Harold Landry, but not because I don't think he can play. It's just the injury. How long is it going to take him back to get back to form? Will it take half the season? Will it take longer? That's what I'm sort of worried about with Harold Landry.
And he's always known for playing a ton of snaps.
Yes.
Weaver's going to have to play more. Weaver's known for not playing many snaps. Mm-hmm. So, he's going to have to adjust and step up into more of a primary role, but it's still Landry that will eventually take over like he did. At least that's the plan, right? That he's on course for that. So where they sit now, I don't hesitate in saying I think they've nailed it in that area. And again, like, for as much as I'm willing to crush them over the awful picks and the awful signings and signing off on guys that have injury concerns and everything involved with their depth at certain positions, they've crushed it in this area. And I think that's something to lean on, and they have.
Do you expect them to go out? Because another position I am worried about is tight end and the depth there. Do you expect them to possibly go out and get another tight end? Because right now, it's really only Chig, guy with experience. And behind that, you don't have much experience at all.
You're right. And it was just an okay type camp for Wiley. He's got to catch the football, right? Mm-hmm. Chig is a vital piece, a vital part of their offense this season, and not just offense, their success this season. When it's the moments, right? I've stressed this with A.J. Brown. Jonnu Smith made some first down plays that led to a scoring drive. That's Chigakonkwo here. He's also able to get into the end zone. And Jonnu, that's got to be Chigakonkwo. He's got to take that next jump in what is expected of him. And honestly, the lack of movement at that position is the anticipation and the buy-in from the organization that he's that guy. So we haven't discussed him a lot, but Tannehill and the entire group of play action and wide receiver and run game and offensive line, middle of the field, tight end work, Chigakonkwo must be one of their vital pieces and their consistent receivers in this offense.
Jonathan Hutton sticks around with us. Coming up next, it's Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
We are live and local.
It will help them get better players. I'm really excited about this defensive front.
And your source for Nashville sports.
They had missed the playoffs.
Those players may end up being practice squad guys.
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Get a great deal on select Kubota equipment, the #1 rated tractor brand for durability and owner experience in the U.S. The versatile lineup is built to help you make the most of your land. Right now at participating dealers, get a Kubota compact tractor for 0 down, 0% APR for 84 months, plus save up to $800 on qualifying implements. Now through September 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com/disclaimers for full disclaimer.
Visit Coleman Tractor, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House today.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Men, at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, our urologists and providers have been helping guys with erectile dysfunction and other sexual health issues for years. And unlike some, at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we take a comprehensive approach to your sexual health. Our sole focus is to treat ED and related conditions. ED can be affected by a bunch of things, from hormones, prostate issues, medical conditions, and even simply aging. The fact is, most guys experience it at some point in life. If you're suffering with ED, it's extremely important to see a provider that understands how your medical conditions, hormone levels, and other factors can impact your ability to have sex. That's why you should come to the Tennessee Men's Clinic, where we have treatments that are effective in nearly 90% of cases. I can't tell you how many guys we've seen that thought their situation was hopeless, only to be wildly surprised. So give us a call today. We'll do some blood work with a T-check and a medical consult to give you the best shot at success. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. We have 2 offices, Midtown and Franklin.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
Come try Calabria Brick Oven Pizzeria. Their pizza is cooked to perfection, but that's not all they're known for. Try one of their delicious appetizers, salads, fresh calzones, and they have a full bar and dessert. Calabria has been a Mount Juliet staple for 7 years now and has a new location in the heart of Goodlettsville off Long Hollow Pike. Come join the family at Calabria. After all, life's too short to eat bad pizza.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app. Jonathan Hutton, Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow is with us now.
All right, Hut. We went down a rabbit hole the last couple days about the whole kicking saga. If you want to ever kill a couple hours, that is a great debate to have because there is no right or wrong answer.
Especially with this franchise, Willie.
No doubt about it. And if for some franchises who are immune to this and they just find the kicker every year and, you know, every 8 years you get a new kicker, more power to you because the Titans are not the only team that get into this predicament sometimes. But first, give us your thoughts on trading a draft pick for Nick Folk, because my argument before they did it was you have a pool of kickers that are out there swirling that have the same kind of credentials that Nick Folk does. So why did they trade a 7th-round pick for him? Tell me why you think they did that.
Well, I think first, Willie, they identified a handful of kickers that they wanted, and they wanted to ensure themselves for an organization that didn't have a kicker on their roster that a 7th-round pick in 2025 was worth at least having one in hand. And then now they've got 2 in the bush because they've signed Cade York to their practice squad. Dustin Hopkins made the roster in Cleveland, and they have now – and the Browns wanted to bring back York to their practice squad, and the Titans got him to come to Nashville. So they've got 2 guys now, and they have Folk, who has been consistent throughout his career kicking field goals. And look, he's good inside 40. He's a lot like Randy Bullock, but he's better than what they had in camp and better than this merry-go-round currently. So they had a veteran where they've got an issue. At least they're able to sleep at night. Let's put it that way. The kickoff thing that Vrabel stresses, I'm curious as to how they handle that area, because now you can fair catch and get the ball to 25. And if you kick it into the end zone, you're getting the ball there too. So I don't know how much that's stressed, but Folk he's not missed a field goal from under 40 yards in the last 4 years, and Badgley missed from 39 yards in the final preseason game. So I think they just made sure that they had one of the vets, and then they went out and made and wanted to see who cleared waivers, and Cade York did, and now they're able to get him on the practice squad in the same area. A lot of the guys who clear waivers just go back to the locker room they were in. So there's no assurance that you're going to negotiate better to get them to leave where they are and go to your practice squad, which is a lateral move. They did that with York.
The only thing I would add to what you said, Hut, is that because I could argue that Randy Bullock has been about the same as Nick Folk the last couple of years, but he makes it $1 million more than they are going to pay Nick Folk. So every dollar does count. So they save some money, even though they give up the draft pick. The York thing is interesting, and this is something when the practice squad slots were smaller, when D-Mase played, right? And the
5
rules
or 6 guys.
yeah. Now you have more slots that you can give to people, and it's easier to interchange them, as you mentioned in the last segment, up and down on game day, depending on what you need each week in your injury situation. So now you see more teams grabbing a second kicker. So
yes,
this is interesting. York is a drafted kicker who's got talent, did not do well last year, missed too many kicks, but he's only 22 years old, and Nick Folk is a free agent at the end of the season. So I'm guessing this is a futures kind of move.
Yeah, I mean, and York, if he gets whatever issues, his struggles fixed through this little bump in the road. I mean, he was great in college. He has made from 60 yards, so. And here's the other thing about getting your guy on the practice squad too. You get them; they are able to work, and they're holder, both guys. So if you're signing some dude off the street because your kicker pulls a hammy or a quad issue or they have a back issue or whatever, that's a quick transition in a week. So you're able to activate them that week, and they've been with you for a few. And Nick Folk's also. Hitting from long distance. He's hit from 50, hit 4 from that range a year ago. So what they've done is the group that they've had versus the 2 they now have, they are able to attempt some kicks that they were nowhere close to even trying to attempt the last couple of seasons. And I think it's more of just a trust factor, sending a guy out there to try to make one instead of just pinning some guy inside the 15 and letting your defense go to work. I'm okay with that at certain distances, but from 45 to 50 yards, they need to start putting points on the board, especially for an offense that's averaging 16, 17 points to begin the year and was consistent in doing that a year ago. So I'm okay with them wanting to go and shake the tree a bit, trade a 7th round pick, and then bring back a guy on the practice squad. And in this case, York's betting on himself that he's going to be able to elevate. And again, like you're saying, for the long term, elevate to the roster with a longer contract than what Folk's probably doing.
I see the logic. It seems like a good plan. It just is going to be interesting after 8 or 9 weeks. Because the whole do they have the confidence to try the 54-yarder is an interesting one. It got my wheels turning. When you brought that up last week, Hud, I was doing a little research myself, and one thing that came to mind that I had not thought about, and I didn't bring it up to you last week, was in today's football, when it's 4th and 3, it was interesting. If you watched the Vanderbilt game last week, they had 3 situations that were almost identical in the second half. 4th and 3 to 5 from about the 32, 33, where it's a 50-plus yard field goal, right? So you could try it. Vanderbilt, college kickers are different than pro kickers, the expectation level, right? But analytics today, a lot of times have people going for it. So one time Vanderbilt went for it on 4th down, got a touchdown. They went for it on 4th down the second time, incomplete pass. The third time at the end of the game, they punted it, and they punted it into the end zone.
4th downs giveth and taketh away.
Right. So my point is, back at a certain point in time, it was, hey, let's try the 53-yarder. What the heck? But now there's a lot of 4th and 3, 4th and 4 where offenses and analytics people will say, go for it. Go for it. It's a better chance that you're going to score a touchdown in that situation. And, the thinking is different.
Let me give you a specific example from last season with Malik Willis at quarterback against Kansas City.
Yep, I brought this up the day after you were on it because that's one that I found.
They're up 17-9. It's 1st and 10 from the 39-yard line, and the Titans ended up punting from their 42, from the Chiefs. There was only 12 minutes and 20 seconds left in that game at the time of the 1st and 10 snap when they're up 17-9. Had they been able to rely on their kicker, it's a 20-9 game with roughly 10 minutes left on the road at Arrowhead with Malik Willis at quarterback. That's the difference in a win and a loss. And they didn't even think twice about what they did and giving the ball back to Patrick Mahomes instead of trying to make a kick to go up 20-9. And when Mahomes got the ball back a couple of times, the game was over. And they didn't have the arsenal to drive down and match what the Chiefs were able to do in the closing minutes of that game. They now at least have the option and the confidence in an upgrade situation now to put the kicker on the field and try it. Because either way, Mahomes and Kelsey and that offense are scoring on you. You must put 3 more on the board for an offense that absolutely stunk it up.
Yeah,
we can take that. They have to have that now.
Yeah, and you can take that a couple more levels too. It affects your play call on first down and second down. Like,
right.
do I have a kicker that I can count on? And look, we can argue they all hit about 83, 85%, but there is a confidence, right? And there's a range that you feel good about. So if I know, hey, look, I got the ball at the 39. If I get 7 yards on 3 plays, I feel good about the 3. If I've got a shaky kicker, it's like I gotta get a couple first downs here before I really feel.
I mean,
good
they only attempted 10 kicks of 40 or more yards, right? So
and some of it was the offense wasn't good, but you're right. Sometimes they get into that area and it affects your play call.
No doubt, and that was the second fewest in the league, only to Philadelphia. And we know their offense was way different in terms of kicking it there. So, yeah, I mean, this offense, they want to be, and they're built this way. Great on defense, good on offense. If you're good on offense, you're averaging some points on possessions, and they were electing to give the ball back because they were great on defense with the next man up mantra, and they didn't even trust their kicker because they didn't want to give the ball back with great field position. And they felt like they were doing that if they even attempted a kick last year.
All right, we're going to track this, Hut, and we're going to see. We're going to on Mondays. We'll write down. And then when you come on with this, we'll say, okay, here was a situation where perhaps the play calling was affected by having a kicker. You kind of let's hope that Folk instills some confidence here. But let's get the other part of this, right? The offense. I've been looking at some of the predictions. It's interesting. People are varying on how dominant they think the Jaguars can be. Some people think it's a lot more of a 9-8, 10-7. Some people think they'll take a next step and really be good. Titans are kind of in that same thing. Are they close or is there a gap? One thing that's getting questioned is you've got this offense, right? You've got reconstructed offensive line. Derrick Henry, a year older. What about Traylon Burks? They wonder about can the pieces fit together with a new offensive coordinator, and there seems to be a lot of doubt that it can all come together to where it's significantly better than it was a year ago. I think it's a fair argument from afar, and I'm wondering how we think that's going to go.
Well,
there's a lot. In other words, there's a lot that has to go right. You got Hopkins coming in. There's just a lot that has to come together and mesh, and you don't have all day to get this done, right?
No.
This has got to happen this year.
Well, and the last couple of years they've started slow, not just on offense, but early in seasons, right? With the Cardinals and the Giants specifically. So it all really comes down to the O-line, though, Willie. Like, does Tannehill have time to deliver the football in a passing game? And maybe it's more simple than that. Is Tannehill healthy, right? Towards the end of the year, not even maybe just prior to the losing streak to finish, the Titans lost their identity. They didn't have one. Their identity was in the backfield with Henry. It is now. They have more options out of the backfield now in the run game and more specifically the passing game. And they have young pieces in their passing game and their starting lineup with Chikakonkwo and Traylon Burks. Hopkins, when healthy, has been productive. You have to feed him the football. I think the Titans should. They should treat him as such. This all carries, just a lot of hot air if the offensive line is the version of last year. And the version of last year, some of it's due to injury. Some of it's due to just swinging and missing on the talent that was evaluated. They've now gone, and the biggest question is, are the backups that we've seen signed to this defense, like the Alshire, for instance, who's very good for what they need him to be. He's not a question at that inside linebacker position like others. are the offensive line pieces going to be viewed the same way? And there is either an incomplete or a no in some of the areas from what we've seen through camp or the preseason. But Dillard is the guy that's got to hit. And then from there, you feel like across the board, you can get guys to be in sync. But it's Brunskill at right guard. Whatever happens with Hubbard and Nicholas Petit-Frere when he comes back, how that goes. But that's 6 weeks down the road. The tackles have to be better versions of what we saw a year ago. I'm not buying it yet, but I hear people say it can't get worse. I mean, I guess it could, but from the starting group, they've reset it and they've done it in a similar way to what they did on defense, replacing veterans and more well-known talent with guys that are on the rise. Is that true with a guy like Dillard? It comes down to the front because that's the identity of the team. And if they don't have the line consistent, they don't have their identity. And right now, we know where that identity resides. It's with Derrick Henry, and it's up front of the defensive line. On offense, it has to get some movement up front. They were pushed around a year ago. That can't be the case now. And really, it hinges on the competitive advantage for the Tennessee Titans hinges on, did the talent evaluators this offseason do and hit a home run compared to what we saw a year ago in trades and free agent acquisitions and depth? We won't know that until we see a box score, until we see the final score, and until we see Derrick Henry and then Tannehill off of that with more play action, hypothetically, with who's calling plays, more tight ends involved, and the ascension of Chigakonkwo within the passing game. There's a lot of questions. And I think the questions paired with, Willie, what we saw a year ago with their finish is why the perception is the Titans aren't that good. And the national perception of the Titans a year ago to begin the season were they're not buying the Titans, they were buying the Colts. So it's par for the course. And I think there's more of a local fan base now that's either in the middle or they're with the overall perception in a prove-it type year for we're trying to be competitive now and also build for the future. It's tough to do. The Titans have said they're willing to do it.
Hutton, you are the very best. Appreciate you for stopping by. We'll chat next Wednesday.
Yeah, thank you guys. I always enjoy this. Have a great week.
Thanks, Hutton. You too. Jonathan Hutton, Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. We will tune in to Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow every afternoon from 2 to 5 on Outkick. Coming up next, a little bit of breaking news coming out from Adam Schefter that the Titans have signed kicker Cade York to the practice squad. We'll react to that, what that means for the kicker position, and what that means for Nick Folk, the kicker position as a whole. We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
He breaks down every game.
The players are still going to be fine.
And knows the ins and outs of the two-tone blue.
They deal with their own position coaches.
He is ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter Teron Davenport.
It's clear what he's doing.
TD joins every Monday at 1, Thursdays at 3, Friday mornings at 8, and anytime on the Talkin' with TD podcast.
I think that's really cool how he could show both sides.
TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Now through Labor Day, get incredible deals at Electronic Express. Get a 70-inch LG 4K Smart TV, only $599, or a Maytag laundry pair, only $449 each. Electronic Express has huge savings on 4K TVs, appliances, furniture, mattresses, and more. Don't miss out on an HP Ryzen laptop, just $399, or Sony Bluetooth speakers for only $16. Plus, get up to 60 months special financing throughout the entire store. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
What's going on, everybody? It's Wednesday. Happy hump day. But I need to talk about Zen Sports here, the new sports betting app in Tennessee revolutionizing sports betting rewards. What if I told you that you were wasting your time and money betting on any sport book that's not Zen Sports? Zen Sports offer real cash rewards for those lucky enough to be in Tennessee, and that means no funny money, points, or credit. For a welcome bonus, earn 5% cash back on every bet you place for your first 15 days with the code D-Mase. That's unlimited 5% cash back on your bets with the code D-Mase. That's D-M-A-S-E. Mason, D-Mason, excuse me, and earn up to 3% cash back on your bets after that with the Zen Sports Loyalty Program. So make the switch today and start betting on Zen Sports. Your wallet and or purse will thank you later. Believe me, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee. Zen Sports, betting just got better.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family? Search engines don't always get it right. For right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted names in online reputation repair, Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for over 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, helping you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
We buy any car.
Selling your car by yourself can lead to some strange encounters.
So how many bodies does this car hold? Bodies? It's a 5-passenger car. Right. Passengers.
Don't deal with selling it yourself. Come to WeBuyAnyCar.com instead. It's easy. You get in, get out, and get paid at a fair price.
I sell mannequins. Oh, what'd you think? Nothing. Nothing at all.
Get your free online valuation now at
WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Blue Raider football lives on 93.3 Classic Hits.
Saturday, the Blue Raiders open their season in Tuscaloosa against Alabama. Our coverage begins at 5:30.
Your home for the Blue Raiders is 93.3 Classic Hits.
Hey, Nashville, this is Paul Feinbaum, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5, The Game.
Couple weeks, couple months, we've been talking about a potential Jonathan Taylor trade ever since it became clear that he would request to be traded, then subsequently receive permission for his agent Malki Kawa to seek a trade. There was interest, real and significant interest from the Miami Dolphins and others. My understanding is the Colts had at least 2 solid offers. The general manager, Chris Ballard, who really held a high bar, Mike, wanted at least a late first-round pick. He decided it wasn't enough. There was a chance. I was told that a trade would happen. In fact, there were plenty of times over the last couple of days that I thought a trade was moving toward completion. In the end, Ballard simply decided that it was not enough to trade a star running back in his prime that the Colts decided not to pay. So Jonathan Taylor goes on the PUP list. He is off the field. He starts the first 4 weeks of the season while recuperating from this ankle injury. And stay tuned for the next saga, which will probably start about a month from now.
That was Ian Rappaport on the Jonathan Taylor situation. The Colts gave Jonathan Taylor until yesterday to find a trade that was decent enough for the Indianapolis Colts. They did not find that trade. Jonathan Taylor will start the season on the PUP list, so he will miss at least the first 4 games of the season. I want to get into all of that because that is an absolute nightmare. But first, a little bit of breaking news. The Titans have signed kicker Cade York to their practice squad. I was totally dogging Cade York the other day, so
now he's
Cade,
on the roster.
Welcome to Nashville. Awkward. So we were breaking this down with Jonathan Hutton, and my initial thought was Cade York is going to be doing kickoffs because that was one thing that I looked at with Nick Folk. A couple of my concerns about the Titans trading the 7th-round pick for Nick Folk was, one, he's not very consistent with extra points. Like, I don't know if it's the yips. I don't know what it is with Nick Folk, but he missed how many of it? He missed 3 extra points last year. That's far too many extra points.
Well, and he's missed 11 in
the last
3
couple of
years.
years.
In the 3 years. Now,
that's bad.
That's 91%, I think, is what he's hit, that's low for extra points. Now, people miss extra points
higher.
now.
He should be higher.
It used to be 100%. Now it should, if you miss 1 or 2 in a year, okay, I can deal with that if you're doing the job elsewhere. But 11 over 3 years is like, that's interesting.
That's a lot.
But the kickoff thing is interesting because if you keep 3 quarterbacks and you keep 2 kickers, on a Sunday. And I guess the third quarterback could be in play here, right? You can use the third quarterback designation,
but he doesn't count
toward your
Yes.
game day roster.
Yeah.
right? So they can get around that part of it.
Right. So, because Nick Folk, only 9% of his kickoffs last year were touchbacks. The year before, only 25%. And then he hadn't done kickoffs since 2017 before that. So in 18 and 19, he didn't even do kickoffs. So that's what I'm thinking is Cade York has brought in here to do is kickoffs. I mean, last year he had 62% of his kickoffs for touchbacks.
It's possible, but Jonathan brought up something in that it's a new rule to, again, de-emphasize the kickoff and de-emphasize injuries on kickoffs, where still a lot of the injuries from the collisions happen. You can now kick it way up there, and if they fair catch it, it's just like a touchback. So they could just boom it into the end zone, or they could just play for the fair catch, and they could try to pin teams deep. I don't know how they feel about that. I think Cade York is a guy, though, that, remember, Nick Folk is a free agent after this year. He's 39. So it's insurance, and it's a developmental thing to where a very young kicker like Cade York could be in the running for the kicker next year.
I don't think they're worried so much. Now, if you have a kicker that can kick it out of the back of the end zone, then that's a plus.
Yeah.
More power to you. But the way the NFL is designed now, instead of taking away the kickoffs, but because I don't think you can legitimately take away the kickoffs, it's still a part of the game, a good and valuable part of the game. They want to minimize the return. So whether I kick it in the back of the end zone or I pop fly it on the 5, if I fair catch it, I'm getting at the 25 no matter what.
Right.
So as long as I can get a kicker that can directional kick it up high, because even if he catches it, fair catch, it's still coming out at the same spot that it would have had I boomed it through the uprights, on a kickoff. So I don't, in regards to a guy that can, do they need a big leg guy to kick off? Not really in today's, NFL. Because even with that, I want to put the kickoff return team in a bind. Do I fair catch this? If I pop it up high enough, do I fair catch it? Or do I take the chance of catching it and getting a return? Because now if I pop fly it, my guys have a better opportunity at getting down there and getting a tackle inside the 20. Well, most special teams coaches are going to tell you nowadays, listen, if that's the case, if it's up in the air like that, unless you're one of those dangerous returners, fair catch it, we'll take the ball at 25. So I don't know if having Cade York on the roster is for kickoff purposes, maybe, but I'm thinking more so they're thinking in advance, like next year, like you said, next year
He's very
he could
young.
be our kicker.
He's young.
He could be our kicker for next year. So not necessarily now. If we choose to use him as a kickoff guy and he does well, then that's a plus.
My only thought to that is one thing that we've talked about today, and one thing that we've talked about a lot throughout the off season, especially during training camp, is how concerned we are about the depth of this team. You only got 16 spots on the practice squad, and you're going to use one of those spots as a just-in-case kicker?
I feel like more teams are doing that now.
Are they? I have no idea.
Well, when you have 16, that's a lot different than what was it when you were playing? 5 or 6?
It might have been 5.
Like, I don't think Floyd Reese would have ever done that with that few spots. Yeah. And I don't think anybody else did either.
No, they weren't keeping no kickers back then.
But now, is that a thing that you keep a kicker on the practice squad?
I don't know if it's a thing or not, but I think it would be a little bit easier to do it now that the practice squad has expanded. If you want to, get a kicker when he's young and allow him to sort of, feel his way through this league, kicking a lot in practice, and things of that nature, it would seem logical the way, at least for the Titans, the way they recycle kickers. It's like I said, they change kickers like you change your underwear.
Seriously.
It's just like the next day, give me a new pair,
I mean, they traded for one yesterday and then
That's for
signed one
those
to
who
the practice
change
squad.
their underwear every day. I mean, if you don't, something wrong with you, but that's just me.
Word to the wise.
Yeah, word to the wise. Change your underwear.
Personal
every day.
hygiene.
Yes,
just
exactly.
a quick tidbit out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a quick PSA.
But that's how. But it seems like that's how Vrabel treats kickers anyway. Next guy up.
It's what he said.
Yeah.
Next minute, unless you can find him, Justin Tucker.
Mm-hmm. There ain't
It's
too
gonna-
many
it's
Justin
gonna be a
Tuckers out there. Nick,
revolving
can you
door.
be a Justin? Maybe Nick can be a Justin Tucker. I don't know.
I believe in Nick.
Yeah, he can be a Justin Tucker.
I said on Chase's show yesterday or the day before, I can hit a 36-yarder. I know we need 50s out here. I
Well,
know.
that's not Justin Tucker.
We're
That's like
warming up,
Jonathan Tuck.
Give me,
you know.
give me about 3 weeks, and I'll be right on track.
Okay, I got you.
I believe in you. Hey, Pro Golf is coming to Nashville this September 14th through 17th with the Simmons Bank Open at the Grove Club. Text the keyword golf, GOLF, right now to 615-737-1025 and enter to win a weekend pass for 4 to enjoy the event in style, including food and drink. 102.5-106.3 The Game.
Green right, Fox 2 run, double catch.
He takes you inside the huddle through the eyes of a quarterback.
Wide 85, take.
Catch ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck every Tuesday at noon as he breaks down the big stories in the NFL.
Buffalo, maybe Miami.
And with the Tennessee Titans.
The Titans might be like, we're interested in a 1-year, $1 million contract.
Tim Hasselbeck is on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Let's see. That one. Wait, I didn't see this one.
We apologize. When you have as many microbrews on tap as we do, we know it can be hard to make a decision. Don't worry, we're patient.
Wow, let me see here.
Bar lines at the Omni Nashville Hotel. Incredible apps and salads, delectable burgers and wraps featuring local Tennessee whiskey and local brews on tap and live music 7 days a week. The decision is obvious. Bar lines at the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Trust your pets with Cottle Vet Clinic in East Nashville in the heart of Inglewood for compassionate care and your fur baby's optimal health. From vaccinations to health checkups with on-site pharmacy, teeth cleaning, grooming, and state-of-the-art surgical procedures, trust Cottle Vet, now offering boarding. Visit CottleVetClinic.com to learn more. We know you love your pet. And at Cottle Vet Clinic, pets are family.
Are you or someone you know looking for a job change or a new career opportunity? Come out and interview with one or more of over 30 local employers ready to hire on the spot at Urban League's free workshop development hiring expo. Saturday, September 9th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Nashville State's White Bridge campus. This free event will include door prizes, food trucks, and much more. The future is yours. Join Urban League of Middle Tennessee on September 9th and take the next step to your exciting future. Call the Urban League office at 615-254-0525 for more information.
Hey, Tennessee, we're Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in town. We listen to your feedback on our competitors, so we designed Zen Sports just the way you wish. Set favorites, search and sort bets, and earn real cash rewards, saving you time and money with every bet you make. Find the bets you want, not those distracting bets that seem too good to be true but rarely are. Best of all, withdraw your winnings in under 24 hours. So take control of your bets, because with Zen Sports, betting just got better. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up and in Tennessee to bet.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Junie Riddle,
the guy that can come in and give us some good goal-scoring production,
and Nick Keiser,
another guy that I thought was interesting that got a 1-year deal.
Each Saturday morning at 9, it's Riddle and the Reporter on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. We've got a bunch of thoughts. We got kicker thoughts, we got 53-man roster thoughts, and we've got potpourri general sports thoughts in the text line. So unless we have a thought,
Let's hear from the texters.
Let's hear
what do
from
the texters have
you.
to say?
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Go over text in about our conversation about, the final say. Vrabel, Rand Carthon, what did that look like when constructing the initial 53-man roster? Gover says it's not just ego. If they drafted a guy, then that guy was probably on other teams' draft boards. Therefore, it's logical that a team who missed out on him is more likely to see his name and grab him, as opposed to an underrated guy that maybe have no interest in. I would say that's probably the case for maybe the first couple rounds of the NFL draft. I'm not sure how many draft boards out there had, for example, maybe a Colton Dowell.
Maybe not every team, but I think it's a fair argument. There might have been 10 teams that had a thought of him in the 6th or maybe the 7th round, and maybe the odds are. I do think that in general, when you waive a guy, you do ask yourself, all right, is there a chance any of these guys picked up? Because we would like to bring a lot of these guys back. In the Titans, everybody that they waived cleared waivers, and they brought them all back, everyone that they wanted to bring back. But if there's a guy, even if you're like, hey, it's close between these two guys, can this guy get through waivers? If the answer is, well, maybe not as easily as this guy, then let's go that route. So I think that I buy that to a degree.
I like
that argument.
Like a Caleb Murphy, for example. He wasn't drafted, but I do think, based off of what he did in the preseason, that if you put him on your practice squad, that he would get snatched up. Because I was having this conversation with Corey Curtis about, is he going to make the roster? Is he not? And Corey said, well, do you want him to play for you or do you want to play against him? And as far as Caleb Murphy is concerned, I'd rather him be on my team because he just gets to the quarterback.
It's easier to do this year than in some years, as we've been saying. We talked about that with the Stonehouse thing, is if they waived Stonehouse last year, was somebody going to grab him?
Yeah.
Because of we knew about the leg, right? Everybody knew he could boom it. And if they kept and played it safe with Brett Curran, which would have been a lot, fine. Nobody would have totally gone crazy if that. But Stonehouse could have ended up on somebody else's roster.
Well, I mean, it goes back to your roster. If you're looking at, let's just take, for instance, two guys, different contrasts. One was a draft pick, one was a UDFA. Caleb Murphy and Colton Dowell. Both of these guys, you look at and say, under any other circumstance, if your roster was better, let's just say that. If your roster was better top to bottom and you didn't have the flexibility, to keep as many guys as they kept, 11 guys. That were either their draft picks or UDFAs. If you didn't have that because your roster's stacked, then who do you keep? I'm asking you two. Who do you keep then? Because it to me, it's not about, well, I'm scared somebody else may scoop that person up. It's what does my team need? If this is a good roster, who am I taking based upon their play in the preseason? Caleb Murphy or Colton Dowell? Who am I keeping? Who are you two keeping between the two?
Caleb Murphy.
Okay.
That's a good question. Murphy really stood
based
out.
Based upon their play. Yeah, that's what
Caleb
I'm
Murphy.
saying. Yeah. Exactly. It's Caleb Murphy. And I think the Titans, you ask them 10 times out of 10, it'd be Caleb Murphy.
Right.
They're not necessarily worried about that someone may pick up Colton or not. Who's going to make our team better? This year, it's a little bit different because the roster isn't as stacked as they would like it to be, and it hasn't been that way the last couple of years.
Right.
But if this is a stacked roster, then if I'm a head coach or GM, I'm like, I'm keeping Caleb Murphy. This dude showed out. He's been showing out in preseason. Colton, he was our draft pick. I get it. But this guy can help us now. He can. So I'm going to keep him. But because of where the roster is at now, they can afford to keep both of them on this roster as opposed to picking between one or the other.
Michael from Missouri Texan says, I heard you talking about David Quessenberry, and I was wondering if you think that he is better than Chris Hubbard. I know Quessenberry isn't quite a starter, but they seem to have trusted him sometime in the past, and I don't know much about either guy, honestly. David Quessenberry played 16 games for the Bills last year. I don't know now that the waivers have come out, if he has landed anywhere
Yeah, I
or
don't
if he's
know if
now
he's
just on
landed.
the
I haven't
full
seen it
practice
come
squad.
across.
I haven't seen it
Yeah.
come across either. I guess it's not necessarily, because between these two guys, I can't sit because I'm not scouting both of them.
He just signed with the Vikings.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, there
Well,
you go.
there you go.
There's the question, but
Question answered.
but I wouldn't.
But that was not a waiver claim, right?
Exactly.
He was open to sign with anybody, right?
Anybody.
I believe so.
But I don't evaluate these two guys enough to say, well, this guy is better than this guy. They both have played a lot of snaps in this league. Who better fits your team if Quisenberry was available? Well, it seems like Quisenberry would because he's been in this system before. Not to say that he's better than I was about to say Bronco. It is Bronco, isn't it?
It's one of the guys. It's
no.
Hubbard. Is it
Hubbard? I was
the
thinking
tackle.
Bronco. Hubbard. Not to say that he's better than Hubbard, but he's been in the system, before. So would a coach lean more toward that if everything is sort of even in regards to their play? So, but now it doesn't matter because Quisenberry has signed with somebody else already.
Another one about a player that could be available. One texter text in says, should the Titans pursue Jalen Reagor? So Jalen Reagor was drafted in the first round of the 2020 draft by the Eagles, then traded to the Vikings for like a 4th or 5th round pick. I think he only played in a handful of games this past season. I don't know about that. I don't think that Jalen Reagor ended up being very good. I can pull up his stats from this past season. I don't think that he ever came to fruition. Even it came even close to being a 1st round pick.
Yeah,
There's nothing much to pull up there, Caroline.
Yeah.
He
I mean,
hasn't
he had what?
played.
I have to. If I have to set the over under on 200 receiving yards last year, I'm going to say under.
He was, if I'm not mistaken, he has been injured somewhat. Last year he had 8 catches, 93 yards.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, well, 2020 he missed. He didn't play in 6 games last year, and the year before he did play in all 17. But like you said, he didn't contribute much to that roster. He was drafted based upon his speed coming out of TCU. But again, I just look at these. I look at certain receivers because I wasn't high on him when he came out 2 years ago. I
Why
believe
not?
Because to me, sometimes you just gotta, when you're watching film of a guy, you gotta look at the system that he's in. How does he play within that system? And if you got to imagine or project, if I take him out of this system, what would he look like? He was one of those guys that I thought, you take him out of that TCU system, he's an okay receiver. He's not worth the 1st round draft pick, but because of the speed and everything else, I get it. But ultimately, it's not going to work in the NFL unless you figure some other things out. And it just seems like for 2 teams to give up on a 1st round pick, that's saying a lot.
And he joins a long list of 1st round wide receivers that for one reason or another doesn't happen for him.
Because they don't know how to make that adjustment from college to the pro. It's not as wide open. In college, nobody is sitting over your head every play. Nobody. Nobody's pressing you. Everybody's 5 yards off. So you get this misconception as, oh man, I'm a damn good, I'm a really good player, until they line up somebody on your head just about every play, and then you find out, I need to work on a lot of things.
The doozy here. The Eagles picked Jalen Reagor with the 21st overall pick in the 2020 draft.
Yeah.
The Vikings selected Justin Jefferson with the 22nd pick in the 2020 NFL draft.
Hindsight's 2020.
Hindsight is 2020.
I believe they traded up for that pick as well.
Did they?
I think
Vikings?
so. I remember seeing that on ESPN where there was like that big
Philly.
to-do of Philly and Vikings trying to trade picks or whatever.
Oof.
Yeah, because
And if they had drafted Jefferson, they never would have traded for A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown could still be with the Titans. All goes
Crazy
into
how things work
Well, the
out.
year
What
after they went and got Devontae Smith. So they went and got him the year after. So, I mean, they made up for it.
You never know. You never know. Yeah, everything's okay for the Eagles right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Coming up next, what Connor Orr had to say about the AFC South. And his sentiment surrounding the division might be a little bit different than what we are maybe used to hearing from the national talking heads, at least in this offseason. We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
It's time to let your voice be heard. Nashville is headed to a runoff in the mayoral race on Thursday, September 14th. Stand up and be counted. Cromwell Media reminds you to get out and vote for the future of our city.
Okay, outdoor summer cocktail party fit check. I've got a hot pink and orange bodycon dress paired with vintage sneakers. It'll definitely attract attention, but not from mosquitoes, because I'm wearing it with Off Clean Feel for 8 gorgeous hours of not sticky, fragrance-free protection. So I can sip, socialize, and flirt out there in the wild with absolutely unshakable confidence. Get your pre-party protection on with Off Clean Feel. SC Johnson, a family company.
Vanderbilt football lives here. This Saturday, it's Vandy and Alabama A&M at First Bank Stadium. Kickoff at 6. Pre-game coverage begins at 4:30. Your home for the Commodores is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Your company's hiring. Who isn't? We would love to show you how to use 102.5 The Game to attract and retain employees. We can also help you find the exact person you're looking for with a targeted digital campaign. You can trust our team to help you build your team. Email us at together@cromwellmedia.com.
Now, your Game Center update.
This is Nick Frazier, and this Game Center update is brought to you by BetUS Sportbook and Casino, celebrating 30 years by offering the industry's biggest 125% sign-up bonus. Get started at betus.com. Yesterday on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, Mitch Light joined the show and shared his thoughts about Vanderbilt's win over Hawaii and is Vanderbilt a 6-win team.
I don't want to say what, I thought this was like a 4 to 6, maybe a 5 or 6 win team before. I'm really not going to change my opinion until probably the Wake Forest game, one way or the other, because that's 3 games in. It's an opponent that, if Vanderbilt really is going to be better this year, should be competitive with or beat. And if they are going to take a step back and be a 3 or 4 win team, they'll probably lose handily in that game. So just try not to overreact, although there were some alarming things that we saw Saturday night.
Tune in to 94.9 The Fan as the Nashville Sounds take the diamond again tonight versus the Durham Bulls, the AAA affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
79-52 Vanderbilt. And I think he's got a coach up by Cheryl.
You're going to see more moves. The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download their app today and use promo code THEGAME. So all throughout the offseason, ever since the draft, or really ever since probably the day after the Super Bowl, when the power rankings come out, when the predictions come out, and then as we go on throughout the offseason and the Vegas odds come out, and then every national talking head, every NFL insider, every NFL reporter comes up with their power rankings for the season or their projected records for the season or who they're picking to win each division, it's always been the same. Where the Titans are, well down on the bottom of the power rankings list. I believe on ESPN's power rankings, the Titans are 27th, 28th, somewhere along those lines. Low. I don't know if I've seen any national talking head reporter, whoever it might be, pick the Titans to win the AFC South. seen a whole lot of people pick the Jags to win the AFC South, the Jags to be a top 10 team in the NFL this upcoming season. But we're all just kind of used to that, right? That's kind of how we've couched every argument or conversation surrounding preseason expectations is everybody's always going to forget about the Titans. Nobody's going to give the Titans the benefit of the doubt.
It's obviously they did not heed to the movie Remember the Titans. If they're all forgetting about
if you're forgetting about the Titans,
you need to maybe rewatch Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans. I mean, it's a clear message. We've always said, the Titans aren't going to get the benefit of the doubt. They're not in a big market. They don't have a sexy quarterback. It's like, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. They're always going to be talked about. The Cowboys are the Cowboys. The Niners are the Niners. The Packers are the Packers. They're the sexy teams. The Titans aren't a sexy team. And that's fine.
Right.
We can live with that.
Same thing with Carolina. There's some other teams that are kind of in that category. It was interesting because we're still kind of getting used to the Jaguars getting all of the attention and all of the preseason predictions going their way for the most part, which we thought, because we'll see how they handle that, right? Because they're not used to getting any spotlight.
And now it's
when
Trevor
they have,
Lawrence
it's been
MVP.
for the wrong reasons, because Urban Meyer is dancing in a club with a strange woman or something like that, or signing Tim Tebow, or
kicking his kicker,
forgetting the name of his safety. There's any number of things.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Don't let Swamp Kings fool you. Urban Meyer doesn't necessarily have the cleanest resume throughout his tenure as a head coach. So we are just kind of used to that, unfortunately. And I know it's frustrating to Titans fans, but it is what it is. But maybe the narrative is starting to change a little bit. Maybe the conversation has changed just a little bit based off of this article that you found on SI.com.
I don't necessarily think the narrative is going to change. I think most people are still going to pick the Jaguars. But this was interesting. Connor Orr, who I think is a pretty creative, interesting guy who covers the league for MMQB, which is tied into Sports Illustrated. He does a really good podcast. He's got some good people on there with him. But this is what he does. He basically predicted every single game with their staff. And this is not analytics or no computer-generated simulation or anything like that. It was just their predictions of who's going to win. And they have the Titans and the Jaguars tied at 10-7. And he basically says, look, I'm being the contrarian here. Most people are going to pick the Jaguars. And he said, maybe I'm just stupid. But he goes, I have to believe, because this is what it comes down to me. This is the point I think we should discuss. I have to believe, this is Connor Orr, that if Mike Vrabel thinks he can be competitive, he's going to be competitive. And that goes against the narrative that was around the league is, hey, the Titans are kind of in between. They should rebuild. Maybe it's time to rebuild. But, oh, wait, they just signed DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, wait, they held on to Kevin Byard. Oh, hey, they still have Ryan Tannehill. So if Mike Vrabel thinks he can be competitive, he's going to find a way to be competitive. He goes, I also think that there's a team that can play the Jaguars tough twice a year and keep the ball out of Trevor Lawrence's hands. It's going to be the Titans. That's the thing about the Jaguars that people are wondering. They got a lot of nice-looking parts. They got a fancy-looking car on offense. They should cook, especially, as you've said, Derek. They now have Calvin Ridley with an offense that was really good by the end of last year without Calvin Ridley. That could be a really, really good offense. But there's a lot of questions about their defense. Their defense is not great. So it's like, what's going to happen when the Titans play the Jaguars? Great offense or talented offense against a really good defense versus questionable offense versus questionable defense. That's an interesting matchup. So Connor Orr is saying, look, you've got the Jaguars who have to play the first place schedule. You've got the Texans and the Colts in the division. And your other division you play is the NFC South, which is, on paper, not the toughest NFC division, right? The Buccaneers, Carolina, Saints. There's no clear Falcons, no clear-cut choice in that division either. So you could cobble your way into winning the games you're supposed to win, holding your own with the Jaguars, and you never know. That may be the pathway to 10-7. But he's got a lot of belief that Vrabel can claw and scratch their way and overachieve a little bit.
I mean, yeah, it's this game is so unpredictable, and whoever wins the division, it's going to be by a slim margin, I believe. with the top two teams and that third team not being too far behind. But they're clearly going to be out of the playoffs. I think that third team by week, 12, I believe. But the top two are going to continue to fight for the division right up until possibly the last game, which is the Jags and the Titans. I'm trying to see when Jaguars played Titans the first game because they played them sort of back to back in a sense.
I'll show you. I'll show you what
December
they have.
And then January they played Jacksonville, so they were hurt basically both times. But they did have their quarterback the first time that they played Jacksonville. What I look at in regards to this, I think the Titans are always going to be competitive. That's just who they are. I don't care. I mean, if you got a competent coach and they have a damn good coach, this is going to be a competitive team because of the foundation that they built, and they have upheld that foundation. Now there was, a season in there where they were not, the Wiz Hunt year or years, however you want to say it. But for the most part, even when they had bad seasons, they were competitive for the most part. Now, some games they did get blown out. But I look at this team from the standpoint of the defense is going to have to carry this team for the bulk of the season, I believe, until the offense start, getting it rolling, because these guys hadn't played together in any meaningful games this season. I'm talking about all 11 starters on offense. So when the first time playing against one another is going to be when they go down to New Orleans, well, I believe it's going to take them a minute to get that offense going. It may take them a couple of weeks to get it going. But in the meantime, the defense got to be able to hold their own and pick up victories for the Titans in that fashion. But the notion, I look at Jacksonville as the Tennessee Titans 4 or 5 years ago when Vrabel got here. When Vrabel got here, this was a good team, a playoff team, but they still needed to take another step. And the same thing people are saying about Jacksonville now are the things that they were saying about Tennessee then. Can Ryan Tannehill do it? Is he the guy? They just traded him away from the Miami Dolphins. Is he going to be able to resurrect his career here in Nashville? Is Derrick Henry ever going to be that back that we saw in Alabama? Mm-hmm. These were questions. Will they find receivers? Will Corey Davis be this guy? These were all the questions that were being asked of everybody, even us. And what happened? They went on a run. 2 or 3 years, they went on a run. I see Jacksonville the same way, and I don't understand why people just don't see that. Maybe they don't want to. Maybe they are looking at it from the standpoint of, I hope Jacksonville, please don't let Jacksonville get that good. But they are the Titans of 5 years ago. Damn good head coach, really good quarterback, some skilled guys, even though I think Jacksonville's a little bit further ahead because their skilled guys have been proven. Skilled guys, they got an offense. Their defense is the defense at work. What makes you think this team is not going to bounce back? This is not the Jacksonville team that went to the AFC Championship and then lost and then came back the next following year and was trash. Look who the quarterback was. That quarterback was horrible. Mm-hmm. No matter, and they didn't put the ball in his hands to win games. They relied on what? Their defense to win games. Now they have a quarterback. He's not even competent. He's an ascending quarterback that potentially that has the potential to be great, and we see it. So it's a little bit different from that standpoint in the Tennessee Titans. I just don't understand why people keep on going back to that Jacksonville team with Blake Bortles and saying, look at what they did then, and they had a great season, and look what they did the season after they flopped. Because the quarterback was horrible. When it came down to it, he was not good.
Are people talking about that?
Yes.
I think there's no benefit of the doubt because they remember
exactly.
They don't give the Jaguars the benefit of the doubt because of their history.
Absolutely. And I get it, but those are the same things that they were saying about the Tennessee Titans when Vrabel took over. Can they do it? They got a quarterback that's been dismissed from another team. Can they do it? They don't have the receivers, or if they do, they're young. Can they do it? Can Derrick Henry be that guy we saw in Alabama? These are all the questions that we were saying and asking.
Yeah.
Can that defense be a defense like they used to? And what happened? Everything came together, and they went on a run. Why is it so hard to believe that Jacksonville can't do that? Not saying that the Titans are not going to be good.
The odds makers are going to be good. The odds makers have the over-under as Jacksonville at 9.5 for wins, and Tennessee more like 7.5, right? So the odds makers are a little leaning more towards you, D-Mase, but I think there's still always some hesitancy to give a team like that the benefit. I think of the Buccaneers for a long, long time struggle. Then Tony Dungy changed the way everybody thought about that. You know, for he put his stamp on it, and all of a sudden they had much more of a belief that they were going to start winning, and then the rest of the league sort of happened. When they first started winning, it was like, the Bucs? Really?
Like,
the Bucs?
It's not going to
Bucs
last.
don't win games.
It's not going to last.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is that that spot for the top in that division is going to be highly competitive. And people don't just assume that Jacksonville is going to take a step back, just because they're the Jaguars. That was the Jaguars before Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence came into the picture. This is a different Jaguar team, just like that was the old Titans team before Vrabel took over and Ryan Tannehill became the quarterback. Now this is a new Titan team. This is a Titan team that ever since Vrabel and Tannehill has been paired together, more times than not, they have won the division, and people have looked at them as either Super Bowl contenders or will win the AFC South.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's continue this conversation coming up next. Again, Connor Orr on Monday Morning Quarterback ranked the divisions, predicted records for every team in the NFL. He has the Titans going 10-7 and winning the AFC South. Your reaction to this as well, 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. And hey, tune in for Nashville Sounds Baseball today at 5:35 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan. The Sounds take on the Durham Bulls, AAA affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by 312 Pizza Company, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every day we are live and local.
I think Vanderbilt is steady, disciplined.
It's been so long since Tennessee's gotten out of the first weekend.
And your source for Nashville sports.
I don't mind going to another team.
You want to know what the coaching staff's going to look like?
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Real estate investors, get ready for an incredible opportunity. D&M Development is thrilled to announce the Phase 1 presale of 16 non-owner-occupied short-term rentals in Nashville's exclusive resort-style community, the New Cumberland. Nestled between Germantown and East Nashville, this exceptional location offers stunning views of the city and the Cumberland River. Each unit features spacious kitchens, 4 bedrooms, and 4 baths, providing the ultimate luxury experience for your guests. Resort-style pools and a wide range of amenities. Don't miss out on this exclusive investment chance. Visit thenewcumberland.com for more information and secure your spot in this extraordinary community.
It's Raymond and Austin. We're back on All-Star Sports Radio. Celebrating their 30th year, our sportsbook and casino sponsor, BetUS.com, is offering a 125% sign-up bonus plus up to 30 risk-free bets.
It's called Bet Protect, the perfect offer for crazy plays, like the famous butt fumble. It's the GOAT of embarrassing plays.
Really, remember when you bet me you could do a live show with a GOAT as your co-host, and he face-kicked you?
Thankfully, I didn't take the under on that one.
Anyway, folks, get Bet Protect today. The industry's biggest 125% sign-up bonus plus up to 30 risk-free bets. BetUS.com, where the game begins.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Anyone want to tell me what happened?
Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to thegamenashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
He talks about him too much.
Jaguar Jared.
Yeah, Jaguar Jared. There it is. Caroline
Jaguar
David
Jared.
Yeah.
Jaguar Jared. There we go.
Yes.
Jags. Jags.
Not Jared Jr. Jaguar Jared.
Jaguar Jared probably hates this Monday morning quarterback article from Connor Orr that has the Titans winning the AFC South, because I know Jaguar Jared is just rooting for Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson and his Jaguars faithful to bring home the division yet again. Jaguar Jared. Jaguar Jared. But again, this is a Monday morning quarterback. Connor Orr predicted the outcome for every NFL team and picked the winner for each division. He has both the Titans and the Jags going 10-7 on the season, with the Titans splitting games against Houston, which doesn't sound like, if I'm going to predict games, I would look at it and say the Titans should beat the Texans twice. That's never how it ends up. No. Never. The Titans always find a way to drop some stupid game that they're not supposed to drop within the division. He also has the Titans sweeping Indianapolis and splitting with the Jags. But when Connor Orr breaks down each team in the AFC South, he highlights two aspects of this Titans season that I don't think that we look at enough, or maybe, national people really look at enough. And it's two important factors. One is the Vrabel factor. I think that gives the Titans an advantage for a lot of the games on their schedule. I know Doug Peterson is a great coach as well. When Vrabel plays the Chiefs or the Patriots, maybe the coach edge doesn't have as much weight. But I think that the Vrabel factor absolutely is in play here, that Mike Vrabel always finds a way to win games that he's really not supposed to. On the other side of that, though, the Titans always find ways to lose games that they're not supposed to lose. But I think Mike Vrabel is one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the NFL, and you have to give them an edge there.
I think the perception, the credibility he has with some of the people that make the predictions, I don't know if I would say admiration, but people tend to really like what Mike Vrabel does, and sometimes they give him a little benefit of the doubt when they're making predictions. I do think that is a thing, whereas let's take the Chargers, right? There's a little bit of, hey, they've underachieved the last few years, so am I really going to back the Chargers? Even though the Chargers have a way deeper, more talented roster than a lot of teams, right? That's what they have to figure out.
But
so
they've
that's
got
the
a head
temptation.
coach that makes doofy decisions.
I think that's been the label on them, probably rightfully so. The other thing that's interesting when you're trying to, and we'll probably do predictions, right? Before we'll, like everybody else, we'll make our when you do this exercise in the AFC, other than the Colts and the Texans, who, by the way, Connor Orr has the Colts at 8-9 somehow. I don't know how he's got that. He's got the Titans at 10-7, the Jags 10-7. And the Colts at 8-9. That's really weird.
Good 8-9 and a
fun
8-9.
A fun 8-9. I guess that's Anthony Richardson and all of that. But there's not a whole lot of teams in the AFC that aren't bringing something to the table. Like even the Broncos, they had the nightmare last year, but now they've got Sean Payton. There's at least some reason to believe they have a good defense, or had a good defense last year. And if they could figure something out with Russell Wilson, I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but they're not a gimme. So the AFC is very balanced. So, the Jets in the move with Rodgers. The Dolphins are an intriguing team that you can say, wow, they could look really good. The Steelers, are they a bad team? No, the Steelers are never a bad team. The Browns, they got a pretty good offensive line. They got a pretty good defensive line. They're bringing something to the table if they can get it together with who at quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like the AFC is tricky.
Who we will not name.
It's a tricky conference from top to bottom. There's not a ton of difference between, say, team number 3 that you're going to rank and team number 11.
The AFC just has, at least as it looks now, the AFC has the tougher teams, the better teams from top to bottom.
And I don't even think that it's close.
Yeah,
I think the NFC has the Eagles and the 49ers from what we know, and that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, you could throw some other teams in there, but if you're just looking at it, if you're talking about teams that could possibly make the Super Bowl, you would name, if you just kind of threw out the divisions, you would name, not necessarily through out the divisions, if you just say, okay, who has the best odds at making the Super Bowl, regardless of what division? I think you'll have more AFC teams than NFC teams.
Maybe even double or triple the number of AFC teams than NFC teams.
I look at this, and you know, Connor in his records, I think it'll be close. I think the Titans must stay healthy. And I think I did this months ago. When you start comparing the two teams in their rosters, if you're comparing the quarterbacks, I mean, if you're looking for experience, then we got Ryan Tannehill, a good quarterback. But if I'm looking for the upside and the guy that, you know, that seems like he's trending in the right direction, then I'm taking Trevor Lawrence to start. You look at the running back position, I think the Titans have a better running back room than the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not that far behind. I think Derrick Henry, his ability to run the football separates himself from everybody. But I think, you know, Jacksonville has some really good runners. Receivers, I think Jacksonville, from top to bottom, their receivers are better. But D-Hop is the best receiver of them all. But the Jags have the better roster. I mean, better receiver room to me. And
I think that the Titans could have the potential to compete with the Jags.
Yeah,
depending on what Traylon Burks can do.
They do, yes. But I'm looking at, and then the head coaches. To me, the head coaches are a wash. They are. I'll take either one of them. If you have pick, you take Vrabel first. Give me Peterson. If you take Peterson first, hell, give me Vrabel. I don't care. One has a Super Bowl as a coach. One has Super Bowls, plural, as a player. And
even though Vrabel doesn't have the hardware that Doug Peterson has, Vrabel is such a good tactician.
Yeah, and that's why I say, to me, there's no advantage from one coach to the other. At least from my standpoint, there's no advantage from one coach to the other, because one coach took a team and made them better. The other coach took a team and made them better. I think what separates the two is the experience. The Jags have a bunch of young players that they rely on heavily. The Titans have a bunch of older players that they're going to rely on heavily. If everything's stay equal, nobody gets injured, like missed games, then you got to lean more toward Titans in their experience when it comes to later on in the season. You lean on that experience. But then you look at the Jaguars team, and they got some explosive players that are young. So to me, it's going to be a toss-up this whole season. And, you know, in order to win this division, you're going to have to win the games you're supposed to win. And we know the Titans, for whatever reason, they always end up losing one or two games they're not supposed to lose. If you just look at the roster and look at the head coach and look at what's going on, the Titans should win that game. The Giants, Titans should win, but they didn't. That's what's going to separate the Titans from the Jags. Can the Titans win the games they're supposed to win? Like we know they're supposed to win. Or are they going to be the Titans and drop games every year? One or two games they drop that everybody thinks, okay, yeah, they're going to win that game. Then they go into the game, they end up losing.
And we'll do our own predictions, absolutely. But just looking at Connor Orr's predictions, he doesn't have the Titans winning all the games that they're supposed to win. I would say, you know, Carolina with a rookie quarterback, that's a game that you should win. And Connor Orr has the Titans dropping that game. Seattle, I mean, you could probably go either way, but with that game being at home and give the edge to the Titans, Connor Orr has the Titans dropping that game. But I look at Pittsburgh and at Miami. Those are two games that I would give the advantage to Miami and to Pittsburgh, that Connor Orr has the Titans winning those games.
Well, they're going to have to if he have them, you know, has them losing to
and that's
Carolina, you know.
And that's the key is, can you win the AFC games that you aren't supposed to win in addition to the AFC games that you should win?
What I noticed about how he flowed the 10-7 was he had a 1-3 start, which turns into 2-4, which turns into 5-6, and then a strong finish, winning 5 of the last 6, including Jacksonville on the last day of the season, to get to 10-7. So it was interesting how he arrived at how that would go, because we have seen that before. I believe it was the 2019 season where that's almost exactly how it went. I think they were 5-6, if I remember correctly, and had a very strong finish. Derrick Henry flipped the switch and started going off and running for 150 or 200 yards every week, it seemed like, in December. That is a great formula that has been successful for them before.
Yeah.
Let's see if they can still do it. The old greatest hits. Derrick Henry in December. Is that the name of the song? Derrick Henry in December.
Play the greatest hits.
Yeah.
Play them.
Play the hits.
Want to hear
Play the
them.
hits.
Also, Connor Orr has the Panthers sweeping the AFC South. Because the Panthers beating all 4 teams in the South, but the Panthers
Connor
still
is
going
not afraid to take some chances.
7-10
and he
for
will
the
admit
Panthers.
that. Yeah.
Over half of the Panthers' projected wins are from the AFC South.
Oh, well, there you go.
The Panthers would win the AFC South, but he has them 3rd in their own division.
Exactly, man. Okay.
Great. All right. Pop off, Bryce Young. Do your thing. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Hey, we are your racing station, 1025 and 1063. The Game is Nashville's home for NASCAR. Tune in this Sunday for the Cookout Southern 500 beginning at 4 p.m. NASCAR on 1025 and 1063. The Game is presented by O'Charlie's. 1025, 1063. The Game.
It's a long summer. But don't worry. Hockey will be back soon. You'll hear every slap shot, save, hit, and of course,
knocked down in front, rebound, and the score!
On your home for Smashville. 1025 and 1063, The Game and the Game Nashville app. Is it October yet?
Caroline Fenton here for our friends over at Superbook Sports. Football season is right around the corner, and now is the time to place your preseason bets with Superbook in Tennessee. Superbook is the most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use the promo code Caroline, my name, Caroline, to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, Superbook will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code Caroline. Will Tennessee win the division this year? Who is your pick for MVP, and which team will win it all in February? Don't sit on the sidelines. Win money this season with Superbook Sports. Simply download the Superbook Tennessee app, or you can visit superbook.com to place your wager today. Football, a $250 first bet bonus, and the Caroline promo code will make you do your own touchdown dance this season with Superbook Sports. So visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Whatever your destination in life, you can get there easier with a checking account from F&M Bank. At F&M Bank, their checking accounts give you the tools you need to manage your money well, like the smart, free checking account that's actually free. Because banking shouldn't be hard, and sometimes the basics are more than enough. Making lives better by making banking easier. Go see them at one of their 20 locations across Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky, or online at myfmbank.com. F&M Bank, banking made easy on purpose. Member FDIC.
The path to the PGA Tour runs through Middle Tennessee. The Simmons Bank Open returns September 14th through 17th as part of the Korn Ferry Tour Finals. Catch all the exciting golf action and still not miss a minute of your favorite team's game in the Arctic Tailgate Village. Swing by the Sand Trap and take your shot at the famous floating Guitar Island Green, while grabbing a bite from Hattie B's, Hogwood Barbecue, Dream Burger, and wash it down with a cold fashion from Nelson's Greenbrier. Purchase your tickets now at SimmonsBankOpen.com.
Blue Raider fans, your home for all the MTSU football and men's basketball action is on 93.3 Classic Hits and 95.1 Classic Hits in the borough. Catch the action all season long with Chip Walters on the call. Go Blue Raiders!
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike 3.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey Nashville, this is Penny Hardaway, University of Memphis coach. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Caroline Caroline, Willy, D-Mase is brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Breaking down Connor Orr's Monday morning quarterback, where he has his predictions for each NFL team, their record, and who will win each division. So let's do some predictions of our own. Willy, our official commissioner of the AFC and NFC previews. What do we got first?
All right, so let's take a look at a couple of teams that are going to be in this mix here. It's the impossible task is to predict this league year in and year out, which makes it so compelling. The Browns are an interesting team. We touched on them. They're not a team that's getting talked about much. I think the Deshaun Watson thing has a lot of people saying, well, do we really want to talk about them? Do we have to talk about them? But I found a very interesting prediction on the Browns from Aaron Schatz. And his analytics team, he does over-under wins, and he does postseason odds. Now, for example, he's got the Titans around 8.5 wins, postseason odds about 30%, give or take a little bit. That's analytics. He has the Browns, mean projection of wins, 10.5. Postseason odds, 64.4. His numbers like the Browns. And it's interesting because I don't think a lot of people are buying into that, especially with the division they play in. Lamar Jackson coming back with a healthy Ravens team. You got Joe Burrow in that division. You have the Steelers, who are always scrappy. Can you guys see the Browns winning 10, 11 games? He says yes, they can do it.
I mean, they have the personnel. Regardless of, the off-field stuff that went on with Deshaun Watson, and I know it's kind of hard to not discuss him and the off-field things, but, in regards to his play, he's still a damn good quarterback in this league. I'm taking last season, and I'm throwing that season out of the window. A guy that missed 6 games, still was trying to get acclimated to an offense. They didn't have as many playmakers from an offensive standpoint. So you didn't see the best version of Deshaun Watson last season. I'm just going to put that in the category by itself. I expect him to be better. And some people probably don't want him to be better considering what happened off the field. I get it. That's your prerogative. You can think that way. No problem. But defensively, hell of a defense. One of the best defenses in the National Football League. Offense, that's where if this team is going to take that step at making the playoffs because of this division, the division they're in is so it's just a tough division to play in, regardless of, even if you didn't have a quarterback, it's still, y'all play one another so much, it's still going to be tough games to win. And I've been in many of those games against Cleveland and Cincinnati and, whoever else is in that division with the Ravens, Pittsburgh. But if you look at their offense, they got a really good offense. Now, if they can put it all together from an offensive standpoint, they got weapons at the quarterback position, weapon at the running back position, weapon at the receiver position, tight end position. They have weapons down the board, and their offensive line is better. What makes you think this is not going to be a good team? Now, the division they play in, they're going to beat each other up. So that may be the reason why they don't make the playoffs. But this is a good Browns team from top to bottom. That's just the way I see it.
I think, too, people they see talent. Mm-hmm. Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, by the way. So they should be able to run the ball. Their offensive line looks talented. But they also made a key change, too. Now the guy running their defense is Jim Schwartz. Mm-hmm. I think they looked at talent on defense, but the numbers weren't great on defense, maybe not as good as they potentially could be. Now with him running it, maybe he puts his stamp on it, and they're even better. But when you can run it, even with Jacoby Brissett, they could look pretty good last week at times, or last year. Now, with the new dynamic of Watson from the beginning of the season, I'm curious what that's going to look like. Also, this is another argument of Aaron Schatz. They like the schedule, even though the division schedule is very tough. They get the last place schedule. They play the AFC South, so there could be some W's there. And they play the NFC West, which, has the Cardinals. It's got the Rams, who've got a lot of questions. Are the Seahawks that great? And then obviously the 49ers. But there could be some W's in there to offset how tough their division is. So I can see the argument. I think that's a really big-time dark horse team in the Browns, as I see it.
I think the Browns have a ton of talent on both sides of the ball, and they've invested draft picks into building up their defense, building up the secondary. I think Nick Chubb, I don't think we talk about Nick Chubb enough when we talk about the Browns. He's one of those guys that's like, oh yeah, duh, Nick Chubb's on that team.
He still play for them, yes.
Elijah Moore, now in Cleveland. I like that addition into the passing game. Like, Cleveland's got some weapons now. And while their opponents on their schedule, I don't think necessarily, make you shake in your boots, I don't love how the Browns' schedule is kind of panned out. I mean, you go on the road at Indianapolis in Week 7, and then you've got a long road trip at Seattle. And then, you've got back-to-back West Coast games at Denver, at the Rams. I would assume they're just going to stay out on the West Coast, but that's kind of a grind to be out for 2 weeks after a long road trip. And then they finish the season with the Bengals. And I have to assume, you're going to be pretty banged up there against a Bengals team that may or may not be playing for anything at that point. They may have the division locked up. So I think that they've got tough road trips, and the way that it's scheduled is kind of difficult. And with the Browns, that division, that might be, besides the AFC East, the toughest division in football. That's hard. It's going to be hard to win a handful of in-division games. So I do think that the Browns have a good bit of talent, but just given the division, 8-9 wins might be in the realm of possibility for the Browns, and that just might not be good enough to cut it in this AFC.
I'm not even looking for Cincinnati. I'm not marking Cincinnati as the sure winner of that division either.
I'm not either.
I'm not. I think every team has gotten better within the division, and Cincinnati had to fight to win the division last year, If not for just a crazy fumble, they are put out the playoffs by the Baltimore Ravens.
And Joe Burrow health concerns.
And Joe Burrow, bigger paycheck.
Money,
So
less money to go around for the rest of the pieces. That's always an adjustment a team has to make when you have a great quarterback.
So I don't just pencil in Cincinnati as the team to win that division. The dark horse.
I would pick them to win the division, but I don't think that it's
I'm
set
not
in
even
stone.
picking them to win the division. The dark horse to me is Pittsburgh. I just look at them for the same reasons. We love Vrabel and what he can get out of his team. I just think Mike Tomlin is that and more. And you can never count out that Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Kenny Pickett's looked legit.
Yeah, and he's looked really good. The receivers are looking good. Run game is tough. The defense, we know what they can do. So this division is just going to beat themselves up. And I would even go so far as to say the winner of this division may win 9 games. 9, maybe 10.
Just because they're beating everybody else up?
Yeah, just because they're beating each other up, and they're going to have to get the wins outside of the division to kind of separate themselves. Whoever wins the division.
Maybe so. Willie, NFC side of things.
NFC side, I decided to pick the Bears today. And one of the things that I hear a lot about the Bears in the chatter is, can Justin Fields not only take a jump, but a big jump? They could take a pretty big jump this year and still win 6 or 7 games as opposed to 3, which is what they won like they had the first pick, right? And they traded it. So I don't know that I'm saying the Browns are going to jump up to the top of the division, but I think the key for the Browns the Bears this year is, does Justin Fields take another step forward where he cuts down on mistakes? Now they gave him a legitimate wide receiver. They traded the first pick in the draft to the Panthers, and among other things in the trade, they got DJ Moore. So you put him with everybody he had last year. I picked up Justin Fields off the waiver wire in my fantasy draft, and I ended up playing him a ton because he was putting up numbers.
Yeah.
But they weren't winning any of the games. He was running for 100 yards, throwing for 150, but a couple of touchdowns in there, but he some big mistakes at key times would cost them. They had a bad defense, which also helped the fantasy numbers, right? Because the game was going up and down, and it was high scoring.
You're throwing it all over the yard.
So a year later, as you're trying to do a little bit, a lot of people compare him to Jalen Hurts. There were some signs, and we should take the wins and loss out of it, but from a fantasy, from a production standpoint, Jalen Hurts started to come on 2 years ago. And you're like, hey, Jalen Hurts is making some progress. Remember, they snuck into the playoffs. You're like, hey, Jalen Hurts, what's next? And then he put it all together last year, albeit with great talent around him. I wonder what Fields looks like as he came on last year, and now it looks like he's got an improved program around him. So what does that look like?
Well, you hope it looks good. I mean, if you're judging it by, his skill players, he has probably one of the top receiving cores in the league. Darnell Mooney, who I like a lot. I liked him coming out of Tulane. Chase Claypool, who they got from the Steelers. And then DJ Moore, as you mentioned, Willie, they got in the trade for the Jets.
MVP of game 1 of the preseason.
Exactly. Absolutely. So this team, now the problem, I think what's going to be the difference here is their offensive line. If they can, they went out and drafted the kid out of UT with their first pick. I think it was
Darnell Wright.
Darnell Wright, 13th overall, somewhere around there. So they're trying to build up this offensive line because they believe they have the talent this year with the run from the running backs to the receivers and the tight ends. They believe they have enough talent to win in this division. But it all predicates on whether this offensive line, because they were bad last year. This offensive line was bad. Yeah. And if they can get half, better play than they got last year, because of the weapons that they added in the offseason, this should be a much better team than what they were last year.
I think that everyone wants Justin Fields to have that breakout year. Everyone wants Justin Fields to really, realize all of the potential that he had coming out of Ohio State. And I'm not saying that can or cannot happen. I'm just saying I haven't seen that yet from Justin Fields. So I think that Chicago has done, I'm not going to say enough to get him there, but they have tried this offseason to, 1, get him the protection, and 2, get him the weapons to make this a better team. I don't think that the Chicago is going to be as miserable of a football team as they were last year. I just don't see them quite yet as a playoff team. But we'll hear from Rand Carthon tomorrow morning. We'll hear from Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel, their thoughts on the 53-man roster. So what do you want to hear from Rand Carthon tomorrow morning? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
He knows the ins and outs of the Titans and isn't afraid to give his opinion.
Traylon Burks needs a massive offseason.
He's Jonathan Hutton of Outkick.
I don't see how they make a move without going to Ryan Tannehill.
Catch him every Monday at 10:30 on Chase McCabe and every Wednesday at noon on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. Hutton is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey y'all, it's Courtney with Parman Tractor and Equipment. Warmer months have you working overtime? Be sure to visit Parman Tractor and Equipment for all your New Holland tractor and bush hog needs. Swing by our store at 3570 Dickerson Pike in North Nashville or give our sales team a call. We're now offering 0% financing for 72 months on select New Holland tractors. Get the brands you trust from a local dealer like Parman, always ensuring totally outrageous customer service. Visit ParmanTractor.com for the best deals on equipment, New Holland tractor, bush hog, and more.
Hey, Tennessee, when you bet on Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in town, you get the best reward possible. Cold, hard cash. You bet with your own money, so why accept anything less from your rewards program? With Zen Sports, you earn cash on your bets, cash on your referrals bets, and a welcome bonus in, you guessed it, cash. So stop settling for Vegas rewards when we're in Tennessee. Cash in your old sportsbook for Zen Sports. Your wallet will thank you later. Zen Sports. Betting just got better. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up and in Tennessee to bet.
All right, it's time to tell you once again about the Dream Home Bridge Loan from Loan Pronto. Hey, if you are looking to buy a new home, it's a tricky game these days, especially in our town because, man, business is booming. You got all these people moving to Nashville. the housing market is a very interesting thing. And you might have that dream home. You want to move up, but you need cash, and you need it now so you can make the offer you want to make. That's where the Dream Home Bridge Loan comes in from Loan Pronto. With this amazing program, you can get the cash in a matter of days from your home's equity, very little paperwork, usually no appraisals needed, and then you can go after that house you want with no contingency. When your current house sells, the bridge loan completely disappears. So don't put off the dream. Let Loan Pronto help you leverage your equity so you can get the cash to make a solid, clean offer. 615-499-5780 is the phone number. Ask about the Dream Home Bridge Loan. LoanPronto.com is the website. Once again, the phone number, 615-499-5780. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval. NMLS, consumeraccess.org.
Hey, it's Jared for PhD Weight Loss. I've been on the program now all summer, and I am approaching the 30-pound mark for weight loss. That's right. We're getting so close. It's been wonderful, and I'm excited each and every morning to get started with my personalized PhD nutrition program that my coach put together for me. I appreciate the fact that PhD Weight Loss hasn't overwhelmed my life, but it's enhanced it. From feeling better about myself in pictures to having increased energy, PhD is great for me, and the program is simple. In fact, we've recently tweaked it so that we can bust through that plateau. If you're someone who has struggled to lose weight, go to myphdweightloss.com and check it out for yourself. They've got the coaching, the program, and their guarantee. If you don't get within 5 pounds of your target weight by the end of your program, PhD will continue to coach you for free until you do. That's PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers organization and fans, online at myphdweightloss.com.
It's time to let your voice be heard. Nashville is headed to a runoff in the mayoral race on Thursday, September 14th. Stand up and be counted. Cromwell Media reminds you to get out and vote for the future of our city.
If it's important to Nashville,
I'll put it out right now.
It's important to Jared Stillman.
Like, that's it.
He's not afraid to ask the tough questions.
Something is going on, and the question is, what does it mean?
Or give the strong opinion.
And just needed the bozo offensive coordinator to stop ruining the quarterback.
Stillman and Company. Weekdays at 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. So the Titans released their initial 53-man roster yesterday, and they've already seen some changes. The Titans have picked up kicker Cade York on the practice squad. They have also signed Kendall Vildor, who was most recently with the Chicago Bears, cornerback that they're bringing in. So we're already going to see a little bit of shift. And we're going to hear from Mike Vrabel and Ran Carthon tomorrow morning. Ran Carthon kicks it off, and then Mike Vrabel will follow. We don't hear from Ran a ton. So I do want to kind of kick it around the room. What do we want to hear from Ran Carthon tomorrow? I know one thing for me is one thing that we've talked about is what does that collaboration look like between Ran Carthon and Mike Vrabel in their first stint of making a 53-man roster, of roster construction going into this season? What were those conversations like? And he's not going to tell you, yeah, you know what? Mike was a real butthead, and he gets final say, and I didn't get to say anything. He's not going to tell you that. But I do wonder, just kind of how that process has gone and how that relationship, that collaboration relationship has grown from the draft now to the 53-man roster.
It'd be like, well, I wasn't going to say anything, but damn, Mike takes up all the air in the room when he walks in. And
I was actually at the beach yesterday. I forgot that we had to submit a roster.
Exactly. Like, goodness. No, but I would love to hear in regards to the 11 first-year guys they chose to keep. What went into that? And has he experienced that on any other team where he has had, like, this is a big group of, and now I don't know what other teams are doing with their first-year guys and undrafted guys, but it just seems like for the Titans, and I could be wrong, this is like a big class for like first-year guys on your team. So what went into that decision of keeping 11 guys, all your draft picks, and then 5 UDFAs? So what went into that? Did they show out that much, or did they jump out on screen that much that you decided to keep those guys rather than maybe some veteran guys? So I would love to hear his answer on that. So, Rand, if you listen, I know you are.
He loves the show.
Yeah, he loves the show. So please give up that answer, please. I would love to hear it.
Along the same lines, Rand, if you're listening, the debate we had about is it worth trading a draft pick for a kicker, I hope he goes into some of the thought process of why specifically Nick Folk was the right guy. I wonder if he'll get into the fact that his salary was a little more doable than some of the other veteran kickers that maybe you'd have to wait a little longer to get. I'm curious about that. I think that's a really interesting decision that they made. And then on top of it today, they grab a more futures guy or maybe insurance policy or both and a young kicker in Cade York.
A developmental kicker in Cade York. And yeah, I mean, we were kind of throwing around yesterday, and D-Mase and I were kind of joking around that, yay, they traded a pick for a kicker. But I mean, the truth remains is we don't know if Nick Folk is going to be any better than Randy Bullock. We can hope that he's going to be. So yeah, that's a good point that you bring up, Willie, is why they decided to go ahead and invest the pick in Nick Folk. And it's a 2025 7th round pick. Whatever. I don't know how many 7th round picks the Titans have even had in the last 3 to 5 years. But why go ahead and make the trade rather than wait, knowing that there were going to be 3, 4, 5, maybe even more serviceable kickers with NFL experience that were going to be available today without having to trade a pick? Why make that decision? Why Nick Folk? Were you forced into that decision because every other team was making a run on the kickers? Was he your guy from the jump and you just wanted to go ahead and make that move? I don't know, and that's what I'd like to hear his perspective on, because it's an important position, an important position that this team just hasn't found an answer to in far too long.
Another one I would love to hear his insights on is his plan for not just the backup quarterback, but the 2 backup quarterbacks, both young, both critical to the future success of the franchise, because how they do is going to dictate what moves Rand Carthon is going to make in the next 2 or 3 years. Do they have to go search for another quarterback, or is one of these guys the answer, and then all the dominoes that fall? So I'd love to hear his plan to try to make those guys better behind the scenes, because we've talked to everybody. You've talked about it, D-Mase. Tim echoed a lot of what you said. It's hard to develop young quarterbacks during the season.
Yeah, once the season gets going, it's hard because one, he's not getting, even a second-string guy, he's not getting as many of the reps because all the reps you want to go to your starter. And then how do I now go out and, get better as a quarterback? Well, you're going to have to, do it through scout team. And those 2 guys are going to be fighting, not necessarily fighting, but they're going to want their moment with the scout team.
They're fighting?
Exactly. They're fighting. So how do you develop a quarterback once the season starts, a young quarterback once the season starts? Because it's hard. Because coaches are they're not spending that much time on trying to develop that young quarterback because we got games to win.
And they're trying to develop 2 quarterbacks.
Exactly. 2 right now.
That's going to do it for us today. We will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. We'll hear from Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel tomorrow morning. Stillman & Company is up next.
Be love and love on your people. Peace.